Gentlemen, please take a seat. Gentlemen, please take a seat. Thank you, everybody. If you could quietly get your seats. Shh. Please find a seat. So before we begin the next round of delegations, can I just remind everybody that we're all trying to build a better Brampton. This is an important debate, and I respectfully ask that you show respect to each delegation. If you do not, you will be asked to leave. Please show respect for all delegations. Whether you agree with them or not, please show respect. It's difficult to come up before a large crowd and speak. Many people have never done it before, so please don't make it harder for them when they come to speak about an issue they care about. Again, can you please also put any of your phones on vibrate or non-audible mode so that that doesn't interrupt our meeting, okay? So our next 5 groups of individuals will be Kin Hoang, Interforce International Limited, Silva Savanthian, Jorg Estepa, Michael Avis, and John Sanderson will be the next 5 speakers. Come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here to allow me to speak about my opinions about the LRT debate. I'm standing here today to let everyone here in this audience know that I'm extremely frustrated with the lack of reliable and dependable transportation in the city of Brampton, and to show my approval for the LRT development through Main Street. My name is Ken Huang, and I am the owner of Interforce International, Inc. It's a security guard and private investigations firm. We have 2 offices currently in operation, one in Brampton and another in Toronto. We employ over 40 full and part-time employees, in which half of them reside in Brampton. It has come to my attention that whenever job applicants are invited to my Brampton office for employment purposes, more than half of them ask to go to the Toronto office instead. And the main reason for this is reliable transportation. It just simply takes too long to get from A to B in Brampton. I think this is very disturbing to know that people do not want to come to Brampton due to the lack of public transportation, and definitely shows that if we do build reliable transit, such as an LRT, people will come. I also find it disturbing that councillors are not in favor of the LRT proposal, even after the province of Ontario has agreed to fund $1.6 billion for the future of Brampton. As the recipient of the 2015 Brampton Board of Trade Business Excellence Awards, I am committed to do whatever it takes to influence economic development in the city of Brampton. I have always had a vision of Brampton to be a viable and prosperous place to live, study, and work. While I applaud the widening of the 410 and the implementation of the HOV lane, this is just a temporary fix and does not fix the root cause. More and more people will see this as an opportunity to purchase automobiles, and it being the primary method of transportation, and will ultimately add thousands of vehicles on Brampton roads in the next decade as people are influenced to buy cars instead of taking public transportation. We need reliable, rapid transit to take the cars off our streets. As for attracting economic development, a good example of that would be the possibility of a university in Brampton, in which I hope my 4-year-old daughter could attend in the future. I actually can see the plaque right now, University of Brampton. We all have been known to ask about, We all have known to ask for advice from our parents about daily life. Why? Because they have been there and done that. Therefore, we can certainly learn from other cities who have been there and done that, in order to come to the conclusion that LRT can be implemented without disturbing the heritage-rich sections in our city. And I think that previous delegates who have spoken before me have already proven this. Let's stop assuming based on personal opinion and look at facts from other cities who have experienced congestion issues decades before us. If Council declines the province's LRT proposal, I will view July 8, 2015 as one of the saddest days in Brampton's economic future, not only for business in Brampton, but also for our children. I urge each and every one of you to vote yes so we can get the shovels in the ground quickly as possible for the sake of our present and most importantly, our future. And just one last note, I just want to recite what I said at the Business Awards in Brampton on April 30th. I came to Canada as an immigrant with less than $100. I was able to become successful just from that $100 and create economic development in the city of Brampton. Please don't tell me that the city of Brampton doesn't or won't do the same with $1.6 billion. Thank you.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, Linda Jeffrey, councillors, Bramptonians, I would like to call brave Bramptonians. Let's make it happen. "30 years ago, I landed with a little dream, a pregnant wife who's sitting there with the glasses, and 2 suitcases, limited funds, just a dream. 4 of my children were born at Peel Memorial Hospital, went to elementary school, middle school, high school. I never thought I could own and operate a business. We own 3 businesses right across from Brampton Go train station. People like to be quick and like excellent service. We named it Quick Sell, Quick and Excel. If the farmers 200 years ago said, oh, we have heritage, we don't want to leave our farmlands, we wouldn't have what we have today. Let's not deprive our future generation, like the gentleman Daniel and other people, other young boys and girls who spoke, that we failed to make the right decision. It is not when everything is green light, we want to leave home to go to Toronto or any city. We have it in our backyard. I lived in 22 different countries, 57 different cities. We do not appreciate what we have got. And transportation is the most important thing. Any business, all these empty businesses can be, there are a lot of foreigners like me. I've lived in Middle East. There are so many things happening. The wealthy people like to come to our country. Canada has voted in the last 25 years 3 times best country in the world to live. Linda Jeffrey, with your leadership, we will know in 2030, this will be the best city to live in the world. We can make it happen. It just let us not, and somebody said heritage, I'm just speaking my heart, no notes. The reason is it's the emotional decisions. Let us not deprive this future development. We don't have to go to California to have these high-tech companies. Of course, we need high-tech, but let's not lose the high-touch values of our Bramptonian attitude. In addition to that, we can build this first, and should we need any additional, that can be our phase 2, phase 3. So we will please everybody and anybody. And thank you so much.
Jorg Esteba. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thanks. I'm a resident taxpayer. I live downtown. I'm represented by Jeff Bowman and Mr. Medeiros on council. A lot of these points that I'm going to speak about today have already been addressed earlier. But anyways, thank you for the opportunity to voice my concerns in person.
Could you just speak up a bit? Sorry.
A significant item like this should be open for public debate, as it is here tonight, at a council meeting, not addressed at a planning and infrastructure committee agenda as you had initially planned. The last time I was here, last September, the proposed Main Street surface alignment was off the table when a resolution was passed overwhelmingly by 10 to 1, directing staff to recommend a preferred alternate route to link to the Brampton Downtown Go. I work in the private sector. I don't pretend to know how things happen in this building, but I find it pretty puzzling that staff comes back with a final recommendation that is exactly the same one as they were supposed to find an alternative to. In any event, here we are. We find ourselves debating this yet again. So I also note that this LRT initiative has historically not been the #1 transit priority here in the city, nor has it been the #2 priority in the city. It's been ranked #3 behind all-day two-way go, which apparently is not going to happen anytime soon, and the east-west transit link corridor along Queen Street, which everyone agrees is clearly ripe as a growth corridor. So I think we can all agree that this plan as proposed is not any plan that was conceived by Brampton leadership. In fact, one can question how effective Brampton has been in this entire process, leaving a distinct impression that this is a made-in-Mississauga plan with little Brampton direction or benefit. I think everyone here can agree that the LRT is a plan that's going to provide many benefits to the City of Mississauga. 3/4 of the routes in their city. Here, Ontario corridor is a wide thoroughfare with many empty tracts of land, which are going to be ripe for development. There will be immense opportunities for Mississauga to capture revenue and other benefits relating to increased density along the LRT route through here, Ontario. This is just simply not the case with this alignment here for us in Brampton. What do you have when you head northwards from Shoppers World, north of Steeles? You have a floodplain and a heritage district. Where is the opportunity for the City of Brampton to benefit from intensification along this proposed route? Right up Main. Unlike Mississauga, where's the long-term opportunity to capture revenue from development and land value increases along this route? I also note that the route from Nanwood northwards is the narrowest along the entire LRT route. When you take a look at, we can look at pictures of cities in Europe and elsewhere, but we have to be realistic about the physical and logistical limitations that are present in Main Street South. We're going to have a train that's going to transition from being on a dedicated lane mode of transportation to one that then shares the road with cars, which will impact its scheduling, as it's going to be at the mercy of the traffic as it takes the 2 center lanes. It's not a wide road. Most of the route is much wider, but these trains are not small. They're going to be 90 meters long. That's the length of an NFL football field. So envision this 90-meter train approaching downtown and then blocking traffic on the outside lane so it can change lanes to go park near the sidewalk. Then envision this 90-meter train taking a left-hand turn to turn into the GO terminal, halting all traffic in both directions. Does this seem like a well-engineered solution to you? This is going to be a nightmare. Traffic gridlock. You're going to transform some of our sidewalks into train platforms. You're going to have the unfortunate consequence of diverting traffic to streets like Elizabeth that were never intended to take on this load. And I'm puzzled. And this is what Brampton gets. As an Ontario taxpayer, looking at this $1.6 billion project, this is what we're going to get. This is our engineered solution for our $400 million share of this big plan. Now, I also, like many others, I attended all these public information sessions where my heritage concerns along Main Street South were addressed with assurances that the LRT system is going to be near invisible. It's going to have, when the train isn't there, it's grade level tracks, a fancy battery system, no overhead power lines, nothing. Well, I guess we all know that isn't true. So I read in reports now that due to the cost and potential reliability issues, batteries are no longer part of the plan. So guess what? Overhead wires, back in the plan. So I just hope, Santa Claus isn't electrocuted when he's going down in this little parade. But I'm sure you'll relocate that parade, and you'll relocate the farmer's market, which laughably you're saying, oh, the trains are going to stop at it in reverse directions. Yeah, I seriously doubt that once this is up and going. So I don't think anyone in this room is going to disagree. We all agree that the downtown needs help in being revitalized. I'm not opposed to an LRT reaching the GO station. I just think we have to advocate for a route that accrues the most benefit. You, our elected representatives, need to negotiate what's best in Brampton. You have to be the architects of a made-in-Brampton long-term transit plan. Are we going to submit to the politics of fear with a take-it-or-leave-it scenario from Queen's Park? I hope not. That's where leadership comes in. We can't be perceived as lying underneath the table waiting for scraps to fall our way and be grateful for it. That's not how we should be. I think you need to be firm in your dealings and negotiate what's truly best for Brampton's long-term transportation needs. This alignment is not what that is.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michael Avis. Mr. Michael Avis. Mr. Avis. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council and staff. My name is Michael Avis, and I represent the Brampton Historical Society. I address you today in order to add the Society's support to all the other delegations urging consideration of an alternate route. Our Society motto clearly states, conserving and celebrating Brampton's history. Tonight, the stress very definitely being on conserving. The position of the Brampton Historical Society in regards to the proposed LRT route is already well documented. However, I would like to expand some points regarding the route that we feel would have a devastating impact on the cultural heritage of our town. In 2013, or maybe 14, the city hired Archaeological Services Incorporated to do a thorough cultural assessment, heritage assessment of the project. Page 3 of their report clearly says, and I quote, "The Main Street LRT may have a variety of impacts that involves the loss of resources through demolition and alteration." And on the same page, page 3, the proposed plan will utilize the existing road right-of-way wherever possible. Wherever possible being the operative words here. They go on, the loss of built heritage resources and cultural heritage landscapes and/or demolition of heritage structures due to property acquisitions and significant widening of the existing right-of-way have been minimized. Not ruled out, mind you, just minimized. They go on to say the Main Street LRT will significantly alter the visual experience and composition of the cultural landscapes of Brampton. These are not my words. These are not the Society's words. These are the words of the engineers that you hired and we all paid for. Also on page 3, and I'm glad the gentleman spoke to St. Paul's, also on page 3, and the engineers refer to St. Paul and the Boyle House, just two of our heritage designated buildings. The report states, and I quote, "These buildings may suffer structural deterioration." The city staff response was even more ominous. "We'll monitor it." I'm sure that's a great comfort to the parishioners, who will be very interested in just to know who will be paying for any structural damages incurred. Going on to page 4, referencing to Main Street South, as if to stress the magnitude of the impact of the project on Main Street South, they, the professionals, the engineers, say construction activities will result in significant disruption and alteration to the setting of this resource. Staff response, and I quote, "Prior to the alterations, we'll photograph it." If that comment weren't so sad, it would be laughable. Sadly, Peel Region archives are filled with photographs of long-lost heritage structures and heritage vistas that have, had they been afforded the respect and protection they deserved, would today significantly enhance the cultural character and individuality of Brampton. The magnificent southern entrance to our town is now a heritage conservation district. As it presently stands, this cultural heritage asset is quite pristine, and that in itself is really quite remarkable, considering that it is a major regional road. Aside from the odd no parking sign, the occasional bus stop, the heritage landscape remains unobstructed, very attractive, and a source of immense civic pride. We fear a runway running down the middle, plus the plethora of signage it would come with, would do absolutely nothing to enhance it. Last year we were told about told that unsightly overhead wires would be used to then the train would go to battery power. Now we're told this is not possible, so we're going to get stuck with these hideous overhead wires everywhere, including downtown. And they don't even have a shovel in the ground yet. What about the other concessions we'll be asked to make? And they're sure to follow. Moving to downtown itself, many issues present themselves, not the least of which is the sheer mass of the railway. BHS believes that the whole project is disproportionate to the size of the downtown area. I have personally dutifully attended presentations by Lavin and Metrolinx, and when I expressed my concern, out come the pictures. Bern, Seville, Melbourne, Reims, Madrid, Dublin. Love Brampton as I do, sadly Brampton's Heritage District is hardly on the same scale. Dublin, 1.8 million. Rome, 2.6 million. Madrid, 3.1 million. Cities like these have heritage areas.
Thank you, Mr. Avis. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Your time has expired. Mr. Sanderson. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, members of council. Thanks, senior staff. Thank you to all the people that come out here tonight for this important issue. And last but not least, thank you to all the press that's here tonight. This is a very big night in Brampton. I just want to say that along with Elaine Belcher over the last 3 weeks, I canvassed the downtown, all the businesses in the downtown. When I say all the businesses, I canvassed between 95% of them. And all but 6 signed a petition not supporting the Main Street LRT and not supporting the LRT into downtown Brampton. Number of reasons why. One of the main one was the disruption in business. They're hanging on by their fingernails as we speak, and they can't stand any disruption in the downtown. The other thing is that one did tell me, one of the merchants in the downtown told me that there was a staff member from the mayor's office that approached them and wanted him to write a letter in support, and also promised him parking at the back of his store, which faces on to the Rose Theatre. I'm only telling you what I heard, Madam Mayor. I don't make up these stories.
Excuse me, can you stop
No.
speaking when the delegation...
No, they can't stop. We've been listening to them all night.
Have some respect.
So 67 businesses, and I have the petition right here, and I'm got it to hand in. 67 businesses in total in the downtown signed this petition. And I was also told, Madam Mayor, that you said, and I've heard you say this before, the only thing in the downtown is you can get a tattoo. Well, we have a number of businesses in the downtown. We got Harmsworth, that's been here 125 years. We got Pita Pit, which is a fairly new business in the last number of years. We got the Ice Cream Cafe. We got Starbucks. We got Subway. These are all ones that signed the petition, by the way. We got a new business coming to Queen Street called Nom Nom's Yogurt and Cafe. We got the Works that invested over $800,000 of their own money into the business. We have Tellus, which is here. We have a new restaurant, Carved Social House and Rooftop Patio, where the old Blaine's Hardware used to be, or Green Cup, spending mega bucks in there. Joey's Restaurant moved into downtown Brampton, and they're spending a lot of money on the expansion there. Cernimo's, Joe and Nina's Realty moved into an office on George Street. Main Street Realty, Fellini Restaurant, Deb Kenny Jewelers, Stems. Sunset Grill is moving into the City Hall, new tower. Freshly Thai, Coffee Cultures, Dum Dum Sports Bar on George Street. Bocce Gifts, beautiful little place in downtown Brampton. Beautiful little place. A lot of people don't even know where it is because it was blocked by construction over the last 2 or 3 years. And also in the downtown, we have Ward's Funeral Home that's been here for over 100 years. Ward's Funeral Home gladly signed the petition. They don't know how they could operate their business with this thing going up and down the street every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes. St. Mary's Church, Father Laborio, signed the petition. Every Sunday, he has 300 to 400 cars, up to 5 times a day, coming in and out of the church. Now we go to the new facade and interior list. The dentist at the corner of Queen and George, Joey's Deli, as I mentioned. 14 George, a new facade. 6 George, a new facade and interior. 15 Main Street North is the one I talked about, the restaurant. 20 to 25 George Street is where the yogurt restaurant's going. 45 Queen Street West facade. Psychopath, new facade. Rod Hendren Appraisals, new facade. And there's also some lawyers that have purchased a condo on the ground floor of Atera.
30 seconds.
So all of the people that say there's nothing in the downtown, there's lots in the downtown. There's lots that have come to the downtown over the last number of years, and there's lots more on the horizon. Now if we go to the Main Street South, the residents on Main Street South, I have a petition. We went to approximately,
I'm sorry, Mr. Sanderson, your time has
okay,
expired.
we canvassed Main Street South and all but
Thank
4 residents signed the petition.
Thank you. Mr. Glenn Williams. So it's Glenn Williams, Gretel Comas, Rose O'Reilly, Peter Bailey are the next few speakers.
This is the residence, this is the business, and this is the online.
Welcome.
Do I control this? Do I press record? Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. So today I want to talk about building a city, the need for long-term planning, and how the Huron-Ontario Main Street LRT fits into that. Today we're a city of 600,000 people. 2031, when the study, the target date that they've used, we're up to 843. But Brampton doesn't stop there. 2041, we're over 900,000. 2051, we're 950,000. Peel region at that point in time will be 2.2 million people. The density in Brampton, Mississauga will be greater than it is today in Toronto. Higher order transit, the current phase, it needs to go to the GO station. Can't go anywhere else because it's got to continue. It needs to go north. It needs to get all the way up here, Ontario, to meet up with the future GTA West corridor, with the transitway as part of that plan. It needs to go east, not just to the city centre, it needs to keep going to York Region. Queen West, current Queen Street corridor area goes to McLaughlin. We know the future Zoom is going to go up to Mount Pleasant GO. Maybe the future LRT there will go there as well. We need to be thinking well into the future, not just 16 years. The LRT and the surface route through the Heritage District, and by that I mean the older homes in the community, I don't think it adds value in that area. The surface route to downtown will restrict traffic, cars, goods movement, might even restrict the ability to develop along those streets. The staff report, one of the reports on your agenda today, talked about the alternatives for east-west. 2 out of the 3 make right turns from Queen Street, one going north on Main, one going north on George Street. During rush hours, with a 5-minute travel time, one northbound, one southbound, one eastbound, one westbound means an LRT every 75 seconds at the 4 corners. When you combine that with GO Transit, the buses, other BRT or LR or the Zoom going through there, as well as the local, transit that takes place, everything that goes through there, downtown Brampton will become one giant transit hub. That's my concern. Then we get into alternatives. The tunnel, obviously it's an alternative. The Etobicoke Creek Valley, another alternative. Both are feasible. We know that we can go through valley lands if we so choose. The issue is really the engineering. We can't cause more flooding, but we can engineer around that. And that's happened in many other jurisdictions. And it is a possibility. And I wanted to quote here from SNC Lavalin in the Alternatives report that I thought was an excellent quote here. They wrote, these options, referring to the tunnel options, as they're no longer interacted with traffic north of the portal, eliminated the general purpose traffic and LRT conflicts inherent in the at-grade shared running base option. As such, the tunnel options were superior long-term solutions from both a traffic and safety perspective. So I added the emphasis, but if we're building a city for the next 50 or 75 years, let's make sure we're taking the best long-term solution. Costs. Reports say the tunnel costs an extra $380 million. I went to the Infrastructure Ontario website. The current borrowing rate for 30-year money is 3.43% as of Monday. Obviously, that can change over time. I can tell you that a week earlier it was 3.49%. Greek crisis maybe saved you a few points there. Annual cost, $20,480,000. Again, that is from Infrastructure Ontario. That number is slightly less than what the staff report said, was around $24 million, but it's around $20 million roughly per year. That cost could be reduced over time. Development charges. If our DC study includes that as part of the costing, there will be DCs in the future to help pay for some of that. Tax incremental financing. as you build more infrastructure, that can help pay for it. And also there's a federal government out there that so far hasn't come to the table. So even though the cost is $20.4 million, that may not all be paid for. Tax impact. This year in Brampton, we'll collect $965 million of taxes from our residents for both the city, region, and education component. The overall tax impact, if that cost was added today, will be 2.1% on the tax bill.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay. Brampton's share of the property taxes is 44%. The rest goes to the region and the school boards. So the impact on Brampton taxes is 4.8%. It's significant, but it's not insurmountable. The impact will decrease over time as assessment grows, just like the impact of the Peel Memorial Hospital levy decreases over time. The impact on the average homeowner, $381,000, is this year, it's $90.19 a year. That's the number you're talking about if you choose.
Thank you.
Recommendations really quickly here.
No, I'm sorry, you've
Is,
run out of time. We have your deck, but thank you.
I'll let you read them.
Thank you. Gretel Comas. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, and citizens of Brampton. I'm Gretel Comas. I'm a store owner. Bachi Gibson and Michael Photography are located at 37 Queen Street West in downtown Brampton, just behind the City Hall, a fusion of family business that has been serving Brampton for almost 20 years. Since construction started for the expansion of the City Hall 4 years ago, our business has undergone a metamorphosis. The transformations have been extremely long, agonic, and stressful. The sacrifices my family had to make to continue running a business that has stopped profiting due to the significant issues during the construction period. Some of these issues include endless business interruption and obstruction at the front and rear of the store, the extreme damages of our property involving walls, roof, water issues, and damages to the parking at the rear of the building, plus the amount of dust and parking tickets for loading products in front of our own place. A business that was prosperous and sustainable today is just a synonym of nightmare. As a matter of fact, we all know that these issues can kill any business, except for some businesses. This is what someone said to me. When there's construction around it, will be gold mine for certain businesses, but for a retail business like yours, it will be the end. Therefore, restaurants and fast food places will do well because construction workers have to eat, but you better move somewhere else because of the nature of your business. How painful is that? When you have your entire life invested in this city, I would like to ask the city if there's any kind of seasonal business agenda that they have planned, whether it's construction on and off in downtown, and or how you are going to attract investors with this system. When it comes to massive projects, we as store owners, we were surrounded by people telling us, think in long term, how wonderful this is going to be for your business and the city. Be a good citizen. Think in the progress. Progress for who? Our business has never been this bad, including the economic crisis 7 years ago. Here is the thing, even if we had rejected the construction, nobody cares. They play the role of sales representatives, but when construction is taking action and is over, you will rarely have the chance to talk with that someone who sold us on construction will benefit our business. You are alone and hopeless, fighting a battle with huge corporations. If my neighbors on Queen Street and Main Street do not want to understand my personal testimonial, they will never understand until the pain goes under their own skin. LRT is a project that, in my understanding, was a closed case and recently opened again. Clearly, we do not want to go against this project, but we would like to see it located on an alternative road. If money has been given to this project, let's use those funds in the way that will benefit the city long term, taking into account the consequences of today's actions on our children's future. If you want to do it, because apparently it is a one-time opportunity in life, let's do it right. Please do not touch downtown. We won't be able to stand, in my personal opinion, another 6 years of brutal construction. To Madam Mayor and to all members of council, I believe firmly in you. We deserve to live in a place that works for us as hard as we work for it. Now is your turn to demonstrate that we did right electing you. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Rose O'Reilly. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. I'd like to qualify by beginning saying that I walked to work for 25 years. So I was sitting upstairs there thinking I started my own fight gridlock club 25 years ago. Live, work, the same community. I love walking. That's my favorite form of transportation. But if you were to ask me what is my first priority for our city and for the province of Ontario, I would say public transportation. And by the way, I rode my bike to work for a couple of years, hence the t-shirt. Okay, so because I'm interested in public transportation, I have attended Metrolinx meetings. I was at the one at Flower City, the big move. And I'll tell you, one thing that I remember more than anything was that the room was packed and the people there, when they started the presentation, the Metrolinx, they said, wow, look at Brampton. I've never seen as many people in any other municipality as here. And look at tonight, it's the same idea. Everybody is really, I think in our city, so passionate about this because we've been waiting an awfully long time. So anyway, I love LRTs, and you're probably wondering which way I'm going to speak, but I'll tell you in a second. I do love them. I've taken them in many other countries. I think they're better than buses. I have no problem with them. I know people here that are going to hopefully be building them, they're saying, and I'm all for that. However, here's where the story turns down for me. I went to the Rose Theatre for the mock-up. And I thought, okay, I'm really pro-LRT. I'm excited about this. I live in the downtown. I don't live on the main street, so don't worry about that. I'm not complaining about that. But I went in there and I saw the mock-ups and the maps. And I went over to one of the maps and I measured and I thought, wait a minute. Most of this line is Mississauga and this much is Brampton. So I thought, okay. It's pretty weird. But anyway, I walked over to the table where the people who were experts were working, and I said, I see that we have a very small part in Brampton. And the answer I was given by the expert was, no, you're getting 50%. And I thought, well, okay, I used to be in the Army Reserves, and we had to learn to read a map, so I thought, have I lost my skills completely? I made him come over with me to that map, and I said, is that half, 50? And I don't know, he looked at it and he said, oh, you're right. Now, I don't know who he was, and that's okay. If he's listening to this ever, he can come up and talk to me again, I don't know. But I was very disappointed because I had a lot of questions. Something, my gut inside, I'm not a planner, I don't pretend to be, and I wouldn't even suggest a route tonight. I've heard so many other good suggestions, but don't want to confuse the situation tonight. But my gut inside said to me, wait a minute, I see more traffic going east-west. I know that people have been waiting for this GO train for so many years. I take the very last GO train if I'm going down midweek into Toronto. I'm retired now, so I don't have to do the daily grind, and I walked anyway. But when I want to go see something, I'll try and work it out or take the bus. We take the bus even to the airport when we travel. It's the best deal in town. If you get nothing else from my presentation, take the GO bus to the airport. Well, sorry to the taxi drivers, but anyway. I've been listening, I've been reading, I'm hearing about how this can be diverted to go towards the hospital. I'm hearing all kinds of amazing things. And really what I'm interested for our city is good transportation. So is everybody here. Isn't that a coincidence? It doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on. Everybody here is to be congratulated for standing up and also for the councillors for listening to what citizens think is important. I think the economic opportunities for our city are very important, even though I'm retired. Okay. But anyway, I want to just sum up by saying it's not about NIMBYism. I don't like to hear people say, oh, it's just a few people that live downtown that want this. That's not really fair. The downtown belongs to all of us. So does the rest of Brampton. And I would like to see LRTs all over Brampton, to be honest. But the actual route does not make sense going in certain parts of Highway 10. That's where I have a
30
concern about.
seconds, okay?
Thank you. So I don't have a love affair with the car. My car is really old and it spends most of the time on the driveway, so I'm not here about a car driver. I want a good start. I don't want just a good start for Brampton. I don't want just 5.6 kilometers. My slogan I've been saying is, I'm not afraid of change, but I am afraid of being shortchanged. So, in conclusion, 5 of you have great concerns about this. I thank you for taking the time for asking questions. You are practicing buyers beware. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peter Bailey. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. Madam Mayor, councillors, senior staff, and the public. So, figuratively speaking, you, Madam Mayor, are in the driver's seat when we're discussing public transportation in Brampton. Are you okay with that, being in the driver's seat? I know your predecessor, she would have jumped in the front seat of anything and driven around. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that or that I supported her, but you're okay with being, figuratively speaking, that is, in the driver's seat. However, with regard to the LRT proposal, it is Queen's Park, through Metrolinx, who is actually in the driver's seat and controls and operates the LRT coming up through Mississauga and into Brampton. Are you okay with that? The proposal being presented for your endorsement has been simplified. There's only one proposal, only one option, one route, and one decision for you to make, and it is a take it or leave it proposal. Are you okay with that? The public here this evening, in record numbers, is voicing their approval or disapproval. They're offering suggestions, they're making recommendations, they're voicing their concerns, and they're presenting alternative proposals. However, this entire event is simply going through the motion because, in reality, there is no debate. There is only one proposal, and that is you either take it or leave it. Are you okay with that? Madam Mayor, and those on council who support this proposal, are you okay with that? Are you okay with an LRT proposal custom tailored to suit Mississauga's needs and run its entire length and loops around its downtown? It serves its city hall, the central library, and the central Y. Their LRT feeds people to its largest retail complex and transportation hub. It serves its most dense population core, its financial district, its entertainment district, a post-secondary institution. It connects to a hospital and 2 GO stations, and I could go on and on. The Mississauga LRT then heads to its northern boundary where it requires a point to stop and reverse itself. Are you okay with that? Are we okay with that? Are you okay, Madam Mayor, and those on council who support you, that it's okay for Brampton being just an afterthought to a complex plan for Mississauga that suits their needs, but it ignores ours? Are you okay that our city has no say or input in this proposal? This proposal has no regard for our concerns, our unique issues, our historical district, and our downtown. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with the divisiveness that has been created on council and within the city? Madam Mayor, you said if people elected you, you would have a friend in Queen's Park, but it has turned out it's Queen's Park that has a friend in Brampton. Are you all okay with this as well? A lot of residents in Brampton aren't okay with the Mississauga-driven proposal that is Queen's Park in the driver's seat. That spot is reserved for the mayor of Brampton. Use the influence you said you have at Queen's Park to be in control of the LRT and steer it to where it will best serve our transportation needs. Don't be a passenger, Madam Mayor. Get behind the controls and drive this baby. I think you can do it. Don't we all agree? Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth Walker and then Sanjay Vashwar. Elizabeth Walker, is she here? Come on down. And Sanjay Vashwar, Basar. Sanjay here? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here today. I moved to Brampton when I was 6 years old. I've lived in 3 houses on Elizabeth Street. I've commuted to Toronto for 10 years via GO train when it was still a single car with smokers. I use the Zoom bus to get to work 6 months of the year, and I cycle the remaining 6 months of the year. I know there have been many passionate speakers, and I'd just like a show of hands. How many use the number 2 or the 502? Raise your hand. The number 2, the 502, okay? Those are the users of the LRT. Those people, they've got lots of opinions, but they're the users. I'm a user. I have several key points to make. I feel like I'm part of the solution, and I agree that the LRT is an efficient way to move large numbers of people, but it needs to suit the route. Downtown Brampton roadway and sidewalks are not wide enough to safely support the current plan for the LRT. I visited the model twice. I wish it had been put on the street because it hangs over the flatbed. I talked to the people. I said, can you convince me that this will not take more than the curb lane? And they said, yes, it will take more than the curb lane. Some of the sidewalk will go, some of those bricks will go, which means the trees go and the lights go. So it's not accurate on 3A to show trees and sidewalk and LRT through the center of town. That's fiction. Currently, most of the day, a row of cars is a buffer between pedestrians and traffic. When the LRT goes along the sidewalk, it's the equivalent of walking along a train platform or a subway. This is unsafe for seniors, young people, those with mobility issues. I attended a conference in Melbourne, Australia, where there is LRT. I used it twice a day, every day. I looked everywhere I went, 6 lanes, parking on each side, 4 lanes of traffic, multiple messy overhead wires. And do you know what the caution for pedestrian symbol is to remind people to watch for an LRT? A rhinoceros on a skateboard. You don't win, and they can't stop. Cars can stop. Buses maybe could swerve. LRT, competition with a child or a stroller, game over. Some people talk about LRT as being key to having a university in Brampton, and I wonder why would we ask for a university? Already there are 6 universities connected by GO Transit. You can figure it out, just look at the transit map. There are additional 2 joined by public transit, community colleges and UTM. So I don't think Brampton should be advocating for a university when we've got 6 established ones already. U of T's recent or current Boundless campaign, their fundraising campaign has exceeded the whole LRT bill. They're at $1.8 billion in funding, private funding for the University of Toronto. So how could we compete with that kind of money? I suggest we approve the LRT to Steeles and select an alternate route. I believe the north on Kennedy, slightly different than what's proposed in this paper, veering west from Kennedy to connect with the hospital along Arenda Court, and then from the hospital linked to the GO train station with a beautiful pedestrian pathway, bridge, something like the Millennium Bridge in London, England. You could have moving sidewalk, it can be covered. There's lots of opportunities for creativity. So I would sincerely hope that Council will support what they did decide a year ago. My final point is that talking about all-day GO means all-day GO train. How many hours a day do we have GO bus service currently?
You have 30 seconds.
20 hours a day. There's only 4 hours between about 12:30 and 4:30, when you could not get to Toronto Union by GO bus. And for most of the day, the GO bus takes 10 to 15 minutes longer than a train. So again, all-day GO is a non-issue for me. We have 20-hour GO bus service. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Sanjay Bassar here? Is Sanjay here? He was delegate number 42, last call. Okay, now after 42 delegations listed on the agenda, now we're going to receive delegations from those people who submitted delegation requests since the agenda was published. Council received 9 additional delegation requests that were added to the agenda at the beginning of this meeting. So we're going to begin with those 9. Guratan Singh Dhaliwal is the first one, then Ian McGilvery, Dalvir Passy, and Andrew Brown. If you could get on deck. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of Council. Before I begin, I need to ask a favor, not of the Council, but of the people in attendance today. If you think that downtown Brampton needs this LRT plan, I need you to make some noise right now. I need you to start chanting, I need you to start clapping. Because this is the future of Brampton at stake. And Council now, you have a decision. The decision you have is you can move with the future or you can get left in the past. And I think what we hear from the people in attendance is that we need you to move with the future. This vote right now is imperative for the future of Brampton. It's imperative that we start thinking like other cities across the world who are saying things like LRTs, things like public transportation are imperative for our cities to move around. Now, I heard some insinuations from other speakers today that this is a political issue, that there's some sort of political motivation behind accepting this plan. And for those of you who don't know, or some of you it may be news to you, I have a little bit of a connection to the NDP. Just a small connection to the NDP. And I can say as a proud NDPer, as a proud New Democrat, I fully support the plan put forward today in front of the City Council, and we should support it. And in addition, I can say my brother, Jagmeet Singh, the Deputy Leader of the Ontario NDP, has issued public statements in support of this plan. This is not about partisanship. This is about people. This is about moving people in the way that we do in futuristic cities and the way we do in modern cities through public transportation. Now, I only have 3 reasons and 3 issues to talk about today. It's late. I'm not going to go the full 5 minutes, or I hope not to. And these are 3 things that I want people to I want the City Council to take in part. These are 3 reasons why I think we need this LRT. The first is, don't look at this LRT as the end, look at it as the beginning. I hear so many discussions of, we need this angle or that angle, or, this is not. To me, this LRT is just the first step in moving this city forward. And a connection that takes us to our core, to Queen Street, well, that opens up a lot of doors. It opens up a door to an extension in the future to Mayfield. It opens up the idea of other extensions of transit. So if we have a limited scope, if we think that this is just the one infrastructure build for the city, then yes, it's limited. But I look at it at the beginning, and that's why I support it fully. It will revitalize downtown. Now, I get shocked. I get confused, and I don't know how someone with a straight face can say to me that Heritage District will be negatively impacted by an LRT. And I think other people earlier have echoed this point. Old towns, thousands of years old, cities like Istanbul in Turkey, Amsterdam, who's not 1,000 years old, but very old as well, in Europe. We have cities across Rome. Old cities have LRTs. But we're afraid that 150 years, which is amazing, which I cherish, which I think is a beautiful thing and we should preserve, but you think it'll be negatively impacted by an LRT? I'd say that is something which has been already proven wrong across the world. It'll bring us a lifeline into this downtown, a lifeline that we need. We need to focus about our downtown. We need to think about downtown as our hub. And to make it our hub, we need a way to get here in an affordable and a safe and a clean manner. The last thing I have to say is do it for your children. Do it for future generations. This LRT, we didn't need it just today. We didn't need it yesterday. We needed this kind of infrastructure built 10 years ago. We're already playing catch up. And to delay this plan is going to delay the ability for our future generations to have access to a city, a world-class city that we're all a part of. And when I think of the potential this LRT has, I think of the ability to have a vibrant downtown, to have transportation throughout, to have public transportation and public education and universities. All of these have a beginning with the ability for people to get there. And that beginning lays in this LRT. Please, members of council, vote in support of this motion today. Vote in support of this plan to bring an LRT to downtown Brampton. Thank you.
Ian McGilvery. Is Mr. McGilvery here? Ian McGilvery? Last chance. Ian McGilvery. Okay. Delvere Passy is here. You here? Delvere Passy. Andrew Brown. Hi.
Good
Are
evening.
you Mr. Brown? Andrew?
Yes, Andrew Brown, yes. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak, members of the public, members of council. I had a presentation prepared, but that's fine. Basically, there are a few things that I'd like to touch on with regards to this LRT project. I am in support of the project, and there are a few reasons for that. Some of the things that I wanted to go over today, just based on how the project was planned, the process that the city of Brampton has gone through to come to this point today, and what I think we should be doing next, and what we could have been doing for the last 10 months or so. So basically the issues surround, can this LRT work for Brampton? Can it fit here? Is it the right solution? Is it a Brampton-made solution? What about the events that the city currently holds in the downtown? Would those be able to continue? What about alternatives? And what happens if we say no today? The first thing I'd like to say, and I think it's been mentioned several times tonight, is that this LRT is not something that's not compatible with a downtown area like Brampton's. As I said, it's been said tonight many times, there are cities around the world where LRTs operate in much older districts. Rome has been raised as an example. Cities across Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, they are all examples of where LRT, built on the same platform, the same vehicles that we're talking about tonight, has operated for decades. In the city of Toronto, our neighbor to the southeast, they are beginning to place into operation new streetcars. These streetcars are based on the same vehicle that our LRT is based on. It's the same platform operating in mixed traffic on 4-lane roads. The same issues that we're talking about, they've talked about, and they've been able to implement these transit projects. And for the last 154 years, these streetcars have been operating in mixed traffic. In fact, these streetcars predate the automobile, right? These are just a few examples of where the history behind the operation of LRT comes from. Some question whether this solution is a made in Brampton solution. Many members of council who are here tonight might remember that the official plan for the Huron-Ontario Main Street Corridor was approved by the city of Brampton in the year 2011. This official plan was put together between Brampton, Mississauga, and Metrolinx, basically to guide the vision for Highway 10. Brampton had an integral part in developing that vision, and at that time, if there had been a problem with running this LRT on Highway 10, that could have been dealt with when an official plan was made. It was approved by this council. It's been on the books for 4 years. Why now is there a sudden hankering to change this official plan, which took 3 years to create? Third, there's been several comments raised about downtown events and how they'd be compatible with this LRT. If you look over the project plans and what's been detailed by Metrolinx and the chosen engineering firm that has created the preliminary plan for this project, it's clear to see that they've provided for both the farmers market in downtown and also downtown parades that we have throughout the year. And these also are not unprecedented measures. These are measures that are used around the world. This is not something new. It's not a science experiment. This is proven technology. Fourth, we talk about a transit network. Brampton currently has 4 Zoom routes running on its major roads. If you look at the network that those Zoom routes have created, it has been a catalyst for increasing transit ridership in the city. Zoom was always intended as the foundation for an LRT network. It's stated in the original plans for Zoom. Why not pursue what we originally intended when we started this whole process? When considering alternatives, I was reading a report from the report that basically outlines the alternatives from SNC Lavalin, and that report indicates that the alternatives that were considered are not viable for a variety of reasons. And when you read the report, it becomes clear that what staff have said tonight is true. It's not some sort of position that is invented, it's proven. We need not go over that. I don't think we need to waste time going over that again. And we've heard our correspondence from Metrolinx indicating that the project doesn't go ahead if we say no. Basically, I want to say that we've had a lot of opportunity to study this, and now's the time to act. We've been given a blank check. Why don't we use it? Why are we throwing it away? We should do this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Satinder Sunny Rai. Satinder? Come on in. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name is Satinder Sunny Rai. I'm the Director of Sustainable Vaughan, a Citizens Environmental Coalition and a member of the Greenbelt Alliance. I also work at a planning, urban design, and architectural firm whose work includes master planning of the Pan Am Games Athletes Village, the Eglinton Connect Streetscape Master Plan, and we occasionally help Metrolinx on project studies, including studying the Finch LRT alignment at Humber College North Campus. City building is tricky business. It gets trickier when you try to build a city on the bones of a sprawling suburb. It gets even more difficult when you have a council and citizens undergoing changes they are not familiar with. Sprinkle in some local politics, and you have a familiar theme playing out throughout the GTA. The inability of ward councillors to make decisions for the city and region for the next 100 years. I'm not here as an environmentalist or architect or urban designer. I'm here as a concerned neighbor. Concerned because of the divisiveness of this debate, unfortunately, has taken, and concerned because decisions here impact the entire region, not just one stretch of roadway. I'm also here to give some insight into Vaughan's experience in city building. How do you transition a suburb to a thriving mixed-use urban place? How do you leverage higher order transit for the benefit of all citizens? As you're aware, Vaughan's getting a subway. It's also trying to build a downtown from scratch around where that subway terminates. Vaughan's hoping to use higher order transit to build a downtown around an area that's used primarily for the manufacture, storage, and movement of goods. Surrounded by 400 series highways and low-rise industrial buildings, the Vaughan Metropolitan Center has been championed as the urban center of a vast and sprawling municipality. How's Vaughan's downtown doing? Vaughan managed to build a new City Hall building and located it outside of the future downtown. Vaughan managed to plan for a new hospital, also far removed from the future downtown. Their dreams of building an arts center, but when the subway does open in another 2 years, there will only be a 14-story office building and a Walmart to greet it. Unlike Vaughan, you have all the pieces of a great downtown that Vaughan dreams of having. A city hall, an arts and culture venue, an art gallery, not to mention all the great mix of building types and different scales and heights. You also have the type of retail spaces that encourage smaller local entrepreneurs. You have all the necessary pieces of a downtown that will allow it to evolve and develop as a mixed-use community. A variety of housing types, a variety of retail experiences, and larger buildings perfect for smaller startup businesses that require old spaces at a reasonable rent. The only missing ingredient to all this is higher order surface transit. Without this piece, you're not building the city of the next 100 years. And this is where I have a problem with your debate. It isn't about the future, it's about protecting the status quo. And in so doing, you're not just threatening your future, you're threatening the future of an integrated regional transit network. This project impacts residents in Mississauga and residents in Vaughan. Your downtown sits directly between the Vaughan Metropolitan Center and downtown Mississauga. This LRT is an important piece of a larger integrated regional transit network. This decision isn't about heritage, it's about fulfilling your role as members of a larger region. What's impressive about Main Street is that it's not impressive at all. What you have on Main Street can be found along streets all over Toronto, such as Dundas, Queen, or College. All streets built around the same time as your Main Street, mixed-use streets with 2 lanes in each direction. Instead of an LRT, there are streetcars. It's a model that has worked well and served the city of Toronto for decades. Don't believe me? Ask the residents that live around those streets. What's important about this model is that it provides a car-free means of getting to your downtown. You can't grow a downtown with cars. You do it by introducing more options to the car. As a council, it's an important decision to get right. Your infrastructure is aging. Like all other 905 municipalities, you have too much sprawling infrastructure for the amount of taxpayers available to pay for the replacement, repair, and maintenance. These issues will only become worse over the next several years. You need density where there's existing infrastructure, and you need to mix and diversify your economy. You also need to provide residents with a car-free option for mobility. Downtown Brampton is the best place for this to happen. City building is different than growing a sprawling suburb. That's why it's tricky business.
You have 30 seconds.
The impact of these decisions are enormous, and mistakes are very unforgiving. As Brampton, Mississauga, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Markham all begin the process of urbanizing, these types of decisions will need to be made on a regular basis. It's only going to get tougher. If you can't get this one right, as your neighbor, I worry. Thank you.
David Dennis. So our next three speakers are David Dennis, Jermaine Chambers, and Sam Hundle. Welcome.
Thank you very much, City Councilors, Madam Mayor. I want to reach out to you today to say I don't envy the position you're currently in. This is the difficult decisions that make your job one that most people don't want. But thank you for doing all you can. If you are a pro LRT surface alignment or you are pro LRT at a different alignment, we should all respect you and think that these are the difficult decisions that you're paid so well to do.
You were doing
I'll put
so
that
well.
in air quotes, perhaps. What I do want to say is that I'm not coming here as part of a special interest group. I'm not here in a union or anything like that. I'm here just as a citizen. I live within 1 kilometer of the proposed surface route. I'm originally from New Brunswick. I moved here 8 years ago, and after 5 years, I decided to move to Brampton's downtown core. I'm not going to go into a huge spiel. It's past my bedtime, so I'd like to get everybody home. So let me be honest. I am a selfish landowner. I would love the LRT surface alignment to go as close to my house as possible so I can benefit from the property value increases. I would that leads to the other side, which is as a taxpayer, both provincial and federal and municipal, I would like it done in the cheapest fashion, and one that has already been paid for with my tax dollars and will continue to be paid for with my tax dollars, which is the current surface route for the LRT. What I would like to bring forward is that the current provincial plan is not a surprise. We're talking about it in the last 2 years a lot, but it has been in the works for 5 years. And I would like to ask some of the council members where they have been for 5 years. I know the previous councils have had their issues, but as our great civic leaders that I know you are, we need your leadership, your civic leadership, and I believe there are people on this council that have that leadership within them. To close, I would simply like to thank all of the people in this room and all of the people who continue to be in the lobby well into the evening. We made it into the Toronto Star as being really engaged, so that's fantastic. I would also like to thank the series of lawyers who own homes down the main corridor for coming and speaking. They and their support for the transit, which I'm sure they use on a regular basis, is fantastic. Thank you very much.
So our next speaker is Jermaine Chambers. Is Jermaine Chambers here? Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. All protocol observed. Initially, when we started talking about the Brampton LRT, I held the view that we should not take it through our downtown. From time to time, I happen to drive downtown Toronto, and I get a bit frustrated when I have to drive behind a streetcar, because each time these things stop to pick up riders, then I have to wait at the door before I can proceed. And I did not want to see that happening in our downtown area. But as the debate continues, and as I think more about it, my position on the issue has evolved. And I've taken the view that Brampton has gotten to a stage where we need to further development. And I believe the LRT project will contribute greatly towards furthering that development. At the same time, I want to keep my taxes low. And at the moment, Brampton, we pay a higher rate of tax than most of our GTA members. We might say our valuation is a bit lower, so we end up paying less taxes. But the fact is, the rate of taxes is much higher. And we're given a gift of a much well-funded transit project. And I believe it's a great opportunity for us to seize that and to seize the funding that have been made available for this project. Now, I live in Ward 2. Councillor Mike Pelashi and Williams are my sitting councillors in my area. Instead of us spending our energy, spending our time to concentrate on the different routes down here, I believe what we should do is to engage the province, engage Metrolinx, to get additional funding to bring the LRT project further north, where it can reach as far as Mayfield. So that when I leave in the mornings, I live just off Oneness Avenue. So when I leave off Oneness Avenue in the mornings, I can just get across to Hugh, Ontario, grab the LRT, the LRT, and head on my way down to work. For the last few weeks, I've spent some time working in Mississauga. I've spent some time working in Toronto. And I've sat here tonight and I've listened to a few people who say that this is Mississauga's project. But the fact of the matter is, when I get out in the mornings, over the last 3 weeks, I've decided to take public transit. When I get out in the mornings and I jump on that bus to head down to Mississauga, I'm not taking Mississauga's transit. I'm taking Brampton's transit, because it's what Brampton has provided for me to get to work. So there is a disconnect. We can't say it is Mississauga's project. It's not as if only Mississauga residents will benefit from this project. Brampton residents are benefiting from this project. A few years ago when I came to Canada, my father said to me, he gave me a car. He said that in this country, he has been living in Brampton for almost 30 years. He said to me, in this country, in this city, you can't do without a car. You can't depend on the transit system. So when I came here, the first week I came here, he gave me a car. He said, you cannot get around in Brampton without having a car. And I believe that after he had been living in the city for over 20 years, for him to say that to his son who was just coming in to join him, I believe that's a bit sad, because we did not provide a proper transit system where he can say, hey son, take the transit. He said, no, you need to get yourself a car. My own son, who is a year and a half old, has probably been on the bus probably once or twice since he was born. He's not been raised as a transit user. And the reason for that is the transit system is ineffective, is inefficient. Having been taking the transit for the last 3 weeks, I decided I have to go back to my car. Because when I leave work, sometimes I work in Toronto, sometimes I work in Mississauga. When I leave work, it takes me 2 hours, 2.5 hours to reach home. That's precious time I would rather spend with my family. So we need to improve our transit system. And I say it's a great opportunity for us to start. It might not be the perfect thing, Councillor Gibson. It might not be the perfect situation, but it's a good start that we're getting, and we can build on that for the future. Let us build it now. Let us take the opportunity. Let us build it now. Let us look towards the future, so that we can now go to the province, we can go to the federal government, and we can ask them for additional funding to take the LRT further north, as well as to connect to go into the east. You have 30 seconds. Finally, my 30 seconds. I just want to say to you, councillors, we have bright expectations of you. The last council voted against the LRT 10-1. And as I always say, that last council was voted out. Don't let that same fate happen to you.
Delegations to go. Save your energy. Is Mr. Hundle here? Sam Hundle. Last call, Sam Hundle. Okay, at this time, if other persons here tonight wish to speak to council about this report, they've signed a list, a sheet that I'm going to go through. Some people have indicated they may or may not wish to speak, so I'm going to go through that list. Is Major Singh here, and does he wish to speak? Major Singh. Okay. Shir Daljit Dillon. Is he here, and would he like to speak? Shir Daljit Dillon. Okay. Pauline Thornham. Is Pauline here? Would you like to come down and speak? Take your time on those stairs. Yeah, it's late. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm bringing greetings and a statement from Mike Schreiner, leader of the Green Party of Ontario. I'll read his statement and then I'll give my own as well. And it'll be brief. Increased investment in public transit is essential for the health of our economy, environment, and communities. The Green Party of Ontario believes Brampton needs smart, strategic investments in light rail transit. Light rail transit powered by electricity instead of fossil fuels is a clean, quiet, efficient technology. It's important for Ontario to invest in the most affordable and effective transportation options, especially in today's fiscal climate. The Huron-Ontario Main LRT is the shortest, cheapest, and most sensible route to meet Brampton's pressing transportation needs. The Huron-Ontario Main LRT is virtually shovel-ready and will fit well into the landscape, both physically and aesthetically. It will transport 130 people at a time, thus reducing car traffic, congestion, noise, and climate-changing greenhouse gases. The proposed alternatives of the underground Main Street route or the Etobicoke Creek Valley route from Nanwood to Queen and Centre Streets are not practical. The underground Main Street proposal would add $380 to $500 million extra to the cost. This money could be better used to expand the service from downtown Brampton to either Bovard or Mayfield or east along Queen Street. The proposal along the Etobicoke Creek Valley is not workable. The Toronto Regional Conservation Authority administers this land and does not support an LRT here because of significant impacts on floodplain. Downtown Brampton has always had flooding problems. The Etobicoke Creek is one major outlet to move floodwater away from downtown. Operating the LRT in the floodplain would impede floodwaters and contravene TRCA regulations against building transit structures in the river valley. Flooding could also harm the LRT infrastructure. The best route for the LRT is the Metrolinx proposal along the Huron-Ontario Main LRT route. It provides the best value for Brampton and will benefit residents, including those who live along and near the route. I support the acceptance of the plant route by the Brampton City Council and strongly encourage the councillors to vote yes on July 8th. And this is just my own brief comment. My grandparents owned a house near Yonge and St. Clair in Toronto in the early 1950s. At the time, the residents on Eastbourne Avenue were extremely upset with the coming subway system, which would undoubtedly affect the prices of their lovely homes. Fortunately, they were not heeded. The subway went through. They were right, though. Their house prices were affected, but I don't think it hurt them too much in the long run. There are always people who, like some councillors and others, react to change with fear. Heaven knows, all change isn't positive. The change in Brampton that I regret is the unchecked paving over of our farmlands with car-dependent subdivisions. However, now that the houses are here, what are we going to do with all the residents? The coming influx of people, due to the Places to Grow Act, will only exacerbate the congestion. Much better to move so many people around with public transit, silent, emission-free electric LRTs, than with gas-hungry, fossil-fueled personal cars. And if I lived near Main Street South, I'd welcome the switch to LRT over the car traffic with open arms. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Fabio Gazzola here? Fabio Gazzola. Going once, going twice. Franco Spadafora. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to make a few points. When we first had the LRT discussion with Mayor Fennell, I was not keen on it just because I didn't have enough information to go by. But as I look at it now, for many years, Brampton has needed a connection to Mississauga or to Toronto that was more efficient. If you've taken public transit, if you've taken the GO train down to Toronto, it is a nightmare to get out of Brampton, and not having an LRT hasn't helped. The Zoom bus has helped a little bit, but it hasn't quite fit the needs just yet. So I'm thinking with an LRT, the good thing is we could start with Main Street and then put one across Queen and take the Zoom buses that are now currently on Queen and on Main and put them towards the 505 and put them towards the 511 and get us out of the city more efficiently. That's all I have to say.
Is Bradley Harmon here? Bradley Harmon. Welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Brad Harmon. I'm the president of the Brampton Real Estate Board. I come to you today speaking on behalf of over 1,200 real estate agents in the Brampton community. I want to start off, the Brampton Real Estate Board was asked to provide input on the LRT project from here, Ontario to Maine. Specifically, we were asked to provide a real estate opinion on how the HMLRT would affect local real estate values and the implications this project would have on future growth of our city. After careful analysis of the information gathered on the project and of the impact of additional transit information, we have come up with the following conclusions. It is the board's opinion that an LRT that provides access to and from Mississauga will greatly improve real estate values, both in the short and long term. The HMLRT will greatly benefit homeowners and local businesses within Brampton, and more specifically, surrounding the areas of the HMLRT. The HMLRT will improve access for commuters and increase infrastructure, which is vital to business growth and the revitalization of the downtown core. Further, the development would support commercial as well as residential real estate and ensure a future for generations who choose to use transit over vehicles. As with most development, there are many pains associated with the construction involved in improving infrastructure to the city. However, it is essential in order to turn the conversation from living in the past to moving towards the future. The Brampton Real Estate Board believes it is in the best interest of Bramptonians to adopt a strategy like the HMLRT as soon as possible in order to ensure both commercial and residential growth for the future. I want to finish what I'm saying, what the board is saying today, off with something that someone very smart once said to me. A developing city is a city where the poor have to take public transit. A truly modern and developed city is where everyone takes public transit.
Is Julie White here? Julie White. Last call, Julie White. Are you here? Come on down. Take your time on those stairs. Don't fall. It's late. Welcome.
Hi. I don't have anything prepared except for what Andrew gave me. It was just to report that currently we have 953 people signed on the online petition for a yes to the LRT. And That's 57%. And also, I just want to say, as a resident, and I'll be directly impacted by the construction that's going to take place, but I want it to happen for the future, for my kids. Because when they have to go to school, or when they have to, maybe there's going to be an arts program they want to take, I want them to have the opportunity to take transit. Because we're a one-car family, and I don't want to buy them a car. I want to send them to university. I want them to have opportunities and be able to afford to send them to those universities. And having a public transit system in place that's viable, that connects them to many places, to Hamilton, to Toronto, to Mississauga, even for them for employment. It's not very easy for young people to get a job in Brampton, but when they become 16, they can go down to down to Mississauga, and hopefully, maybe they need to get a job down there. They'll have that transit. They'll have the opportunity to take the LRT, and also, it's just the right thing to do, and it's the right time to do it. A lot of people who probably don't want it, like my neighbor who's up there. We have to. I love my neighbor. We're great friends. But we have to think of the future. And if we don't do this today, we're really setting ourselves back so many years, so many decades. And it's just the spark that's starting our prosperity engine. So if we don't take advantage and just get to Main Street, we're never going to get up to Mayfield. We're never going to get across to the hospital. We're never going to get any other connections within our city. That's growing. We're over 500,000 people in this city right now. That's a lot of people. I grew up in a town with like 150. I didn't get on a bus till I was 19 years old. I didn't even see a city bus for the first 10, 15 years of my life because I didn't go to the city. We need this. We need it now. And if we don't vote yes on this, it's going to be really damaging to our future generations. Not to me, not to my neighbors. It's to the kids who are going to grow up in Brampton. They're the ones that need this. Thank you.
So we're at 11:35 in the course of the meeting. I'm going to ask our clerk to tell us what our next steps are, just to alert everybody to what the process is.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Council's procedure bylaw requires a motion to extend the meeting after 11:55 p.m. I have a motion for Council's consideration. If the motion does not pass, there are a few things, housekeeping, we have to do before 11:55. So, Madam Mayor, there is the motion.
So we'll take that at 11:55. Oh, can we do it now? Okay. So that it's moved by Councillor Pellecci, seconded by Councillor Willens, that the special council meeting July 8th be extended to continue beyond 11:55 p.m. And in case you're wondering, I think I have maybe 8 speakers, if everybody speaks, just so you know. Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you. Our next speaker is Des Farkas. Is Des Farkas here? Last chance. Harkirat Singh. Harkirat? Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Can I begin?
You can go.
Thank you. Dear councillors, Madam Mayor, staff, I'd also like to recognize my colleagues from the Peel District School Board. Trustee Vice Chair Suzanne Nurse is here, and also Trustee McDonald, and also to the public who have waited till the late night. Thank you for giving me the time to delegate. My name is Harkirat Singh, and I am a trustee for the Peel District School Board in Brampton's Wards 9 and 10, and also a lecturer for postgraduate students. I'm here today to speak as a concerned citizen who cares about the future direction of his city. I love Brampton. I think it is vibrant. I think it is unique. And after entering politics and working extensively with young people, I believe firmly this city has a lot of untapped potential. We are here today discussing staff recommended LRT options. I'm not here to talk about the nitty-gritties like historical sites, lanes being affected, or aesthetics. I think these issues are important, but they also detract us from the overall discussion about our visions and goals for this beautiful city. To be perfectly honest with you, one thing that is apparent almost immediately upon entering Brampton is the lack of community centers, few people taking the bus because of the transit system, the few people working in Brampton. We have one of the lowest work-to-live ratios in the GTA. We have high property taxes, no real bike lanes, and some parts of Brampton are completely undistinguishable from others. Some say the problem is bad planning, but I truly believe that the problem is deeper and stems from a lack of leadership and vision. Now, we have made mistakes in the past. I'm not here to dwell on them or to play the blame game. However, the reason for my delegation is that if we want a Brampton that the next generation will be proud to call their home, we need to embrace this approach. And I have two primary reasons. First, this is a gateway for many critical missing pieces in Brampton. It is a gateway for a robust transit strategy, which includes the Queen Street Rapid Line and two-way go. The LRT will also increase our chances of a university and fuel growth in downtown Brampton. This is the direction I want to see Brampton head in, and I think many young people, and from what I know in my wards, 9 and 10, also as well. We need a city where people go beyond just to sleep in, where they work, go to school, hang out, engage in arts and festivity. The pieces that follow the LRT are what I find most attractive, but we need to take the first step. We so desperately need that leadership. Secondly, the funding cannot be understated, not only because I am concerned about my property tax, which I am, but also because of the opportunity cost. Most of the alternatives cost a couple $100 million. That is money that could be used for infrastructure. That is money that could be used for social services. Do you know in my part of Brampton, there is only one real community center? Do you know that there are over 40 seniors clubs, yet no facility for them? There is one major library and one library in a plaza, and Kabaddi, national support for specifically the Punjabi community, has no proper infrastructure. That is stuff that desperately needs funding. So I ask honorable councillors to support the LRT as proposed by staff. It is an important piece for a vibrant city, a rare opportunity, and it will show, more importantly, leadership on behalf of the councillors. That though there may be issues in the past, Brampton is now moving in a new direction. I think that's evidence tonight with the amount of delegations we've had and the political participation, which I think is a good thing. So I see this new direction. I see it being a better direction, and a direction where not only myself, but my children will be proud to call their home. Please support the LRT. Thank you.
Harjeet Sahota? Is Harjeet here? Harjeet. Okay. Harb Kathlon, Khlon. Harb. Amelathan Xavier. Amelathan Xavier. Okay, the next name I can't even, I'm not even sure I've got it right. I think the first name is Baneeetvon. Last name Nadardjoh. Okay. Is Jude Joseph here? Jude Joseph. Okay, our last person is Siri Ramsimi. Siri here? Okay. I think that completes all our public delegations. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you very much, everybody. I know this has been a long evening, and I appreciate your patience. And for so many people staying, we appreciate your comments, your questions, and your opinions. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman and seconded by Councillor Paleshi to receive the delegations. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. So we have now a report from, we're at the report stage, which is E1 and E2. Members of council, the staff report E1 referred from the Planning and Infrastructure Service Committee is before us, as well as the addendum E2 that responds to the questions posed at the committee meeting. Also, I will remind you that there are many items of correspondence included on tonight's agenda. All of these items are important, but I draw your attention to item F1 from Metrolinx, which responds to the questions posed at the Planning and Infrastructure Committee, and F2, item 37 from Morgard, which provides comments on the Brampton City Centre, also questioned at the Planning Committee meeting. Council will entertain a motion to receive correspondence items F1 and F2 after the staff reports E1 and E2. So I have a list of speakers. Do we have to accept these reports? What's the... Okay, so can I just go to my list now? Okay, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight. It is very nice to see everybody engaged in something that's so important to the city. Thanks for the reporters for doing a very good job in the last 2 months covering both sides of the story. I thank you for that. I do have just a couple of things to say now, and I may decide to say something later if we've got time. I don't know, but this is certainly a very divisive subject. It has been very difficult over the last 2 months. This topic has divided council. This topic has divided Brampton. This topic has divided us demographically, in many cases, age, seniors against the young entrepreneurs. It has divided us in many ways. It's divided Ward 3 and 4 between two councillors who feel differently about the same subject. It is a very tough decision. And to sit here and listen to 60 to 70 delegations and listen to all the people talk and listen to all the things that come out, I got to say I'm very pleased. I had great conversations with a great many of you who are in the audience, both pro and anti-LRT. We were able to do it in a very nice way, an informative way. We respect each other's point of view. That's what I would expect from the city that I was born in over 50 years ago. I would expect that we can all talk about things, accept each other's points of view, and work towards a solution that best suits Brampton. We obviously have a solution on the table that half of Brampton feels is a good solution and half of Brampton feels is not a good solution. Okay.
Please. Let the councillor speak.
Okay. So, maybe not in this gallery, but I can tell you, talking to people in the wards, walking around, talking to people at the farmers market, visiting stores, we can... Please. You want to leave, or do you want to let the councillor finish, please?
Excuse me. Can we please be respectful? Okay. Please be respectful. It's been a long evening. I'm asking people to be respectful, please. Please.
So, okay.
Stop.
Thank you.
Stop.
Thank you. So, there are a number of issues. You know, I hear people talking about leadership. Leadership is about making the right decision based on having all the information available to you. Leadership is not about simply making a decision based on what 25 or 30 people are screaming at you from a gallery. That's not leadership. Leadership is about taking it and working it and finding a solution that everybody can agree with. The young people here were full of vim and vigor, and they came down here. They were exuberant. And you know what? I would love to see that exuberance happen between the mayor and Mr. McQuaid over here and Kathleen Wynne at a meeting to work this whole thing out so that we can get a solution for Brampton. not just the solution that we're given. If we had come to you tonight, or if the government had announced all of a sudden, we're funding LRT for Brampton, we are giving full funding to LRT for Brampton for a downtown route that goes over the valley lands because we can do it and connects to the hospital, which will then connect to the GO station directly at Church Street. Would we all be sitting here tonight yelling and screaming at each other, or would we be saying, great, we've got an LRT, this is a great start, let's do it? I personally don't think we're past that stage yet. I think there's a way we can work here, and I wish Mr. Singh had not left, because I think he was sort of guaranteeing that Jagmeet would fill in the blanks for us, write us a check with an NDP government. So I think there's opportunities here, and because I think there's opportunities, I would like to put a motion forward, Madam Mayor, if I can read that, please.
Sure.
Sorry, it's a little long. Whereas Resolution CW 282-2014 states, here Ontario Main LRT alignment not proceed as a surface route on Main Street north of the Etobicoke Creek, and that this alignment be removed as an acceptable alignment and not be the subject of further study or consideration. Whereas Metrolinx HMLRT have recommended a route through Brampton to the downtown GO station, which includes a surface alignment north of the Etobicoke Creek, and whereas Mississauga, through the course of the TPAP exercise, removed a surface alignment through Port Credit to protect its heritage area and to prevent business disruption, whereas Metrolinx is fully funding a loop around Mississauga's City Centre Square 1, and whereas Hurontario Street south of the 407 is a major economic corridor for the city of Mississauga, and whereas Brampton's identified major economic corridor is Queen Street, also referred to as the Central Corridor, and whereas Brampton's most convincing increased employment creation potential in the broader downtown is reflected in the currently underway redevelopment of the Peel Memorial Hospital property and adjacent lands, and whereas Council recently approved 2015-2018 Economic Development Strategy containing a 9-goal stream and Objective 9.1 to develop a hospital innovation hub around the new Peel Memorial Centre for Health and Wellness. And whereas Council recently approved a recommendation report from the Peel Memorial Hospital District Economic Development Plan, which states that PMC will be a catalyst for economic development and urban regeneration of the downtown central core. The Economic Development Plan is intended to put the city in the best possible position to attract and respond effectively to potential investors, stakeholders in key markets, including education, research and development, history such as health sciences, industry I should say, such as health sciences, and other emerging opportunities. And whereas the currently proposed LRT surface route from Steeles Avenue north through the historic downtown core has limited capacity to attract investment, increase assessment values, and create jobs, whereas Brampton's #1 transit priority is two-way all-day GO service from the downtown station direct to Union Station, and whereas Brampton's #2 transit priority is higher-order transit along the Central Corridor, specifically Queen Street, and whereas Brampton's taxpayers are paying an additional levy to satisfy a $60 million commitment to the Peel Memorial Hospital redevelopment, where 5,000 people are expected to be employed, therefore it be resolved that Council reaffirmed CW 282-2014 to once and for all remove a surface alignment from the HMLRT on Main Street north of the Etobicoke Creek. Further, the Council approved the Metrolinx HMLRT alignment to Steeles Avenue, and further, that the Mayor and Council seek permission from Metrolinx to allocate funds from the approved funding envelope to undertake the necessary studies and assessments on 2 alternative alignments to better serve Brampton's Central Corridor, Queen Street, at the Peel Memorial Hospital redevelopment location, and further that Mayor and Council request Metrolinx to consider reallocation of funds from the approved funding envelope to immediately address Brampton's #1 priority of two-way all-day GO service from the downtown Brampton GO station, serving their objective of providing two-way all-day GO service throughout the Kitchener-Waterloo community. And I would put that forward. I would hope that some of my council members would be able to support this resolution, as it speaks to some of the transportation needs that we have talked about in Brampton for years and years and years. So I would put that through and ask for council support on this. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder?
Seconder Doug Willens, and I've got copies of all of it. So.
Okay, so you want to pass that around so everybody has a copy? Okay, Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I also want to thank everyone who came here to delegate and who've express their opinion for or against. Folks, I think, watching at home. I will say, when I first, when I was elected, one of the things I really wanted to ensure that my decision making was dispassionate. It was about the best information that I had at hand. It was based on rational thinking. This divisiveness that I think is perceived, and there has been divisiveness, I also look at as healthy debate. Folks have different opinions, and that sometimes leads to not necessarily the best, I guess, focus for what we're trying to achieve here. I myself have been on the receiving end of, instead of attacking me for my support of a plan, start attacking me personally, sort of take away from the attention that all the studies I've seen, all the information that I have, leads me to believe that you have to support HRLT. You have to support, and I disagree with some of my colleagues when they say that their questions haven't been answered, where all the information is out there for them to have it. There's not a reason why they can't address some of their concerns. I understand that they won't, it's not necessarily something that, that they support or something that they want to see, but the information is pretty black and white in my books. So on that basis, I'd like to put a motion forth as well, seconded by Councillor Gurpreet Dillon, and it goes as follows. Whereas the current Hurontario main corridor weekday daily ridership is 14,050 boardings, 32% of these boardings occur between the downtown Brampton terminal and Sandalwood Parkway, while 68% of these boardings occur between the Mississauga terminal and the downtown Brampton terminal. Whereas anticipated growth on the Hurontario main corridor is projected to be 5 to 10% yearly, resulting in an approximate increase of 1,405 boardings per year. Whereas the council approved land use for the downtown project's population growth to increase from 11,920 to 21,600 by 2031, and the number of jobs from 5,900 to 9,800 by 2031. Whereas HMLRT supports a regional transportation network that connects Brampton residents to 3 GO rail lines, 5 mobility hubs along the route, and also supports 2-way all-day GO rail service. Whereas Metrolinx has established that the implementation of the HMLRT will enhance and better support the business case for the Queen Street higher order transit. Whereas the City of Brampton has already commenced the higher order transit master plan for the Queen Street corridor. Therefore, be it resolved that the report from Mr. Doivsten, Manager of Infrastructure Planning, Capital Construction, Maintenance and Operations, dated June 9, 2015, to the Planning and Infrastructure Services Committee of June 22, 2015, recommendations, report, Hurontario Main Light Transit Project Update, and the addendum to the recommendation report dated July 3, 2015, and appendices be received. Therefore, be resolved that Council endorse the Hurontario Main Light Rail Transit Surface Route recommended in the Transit Project Assessment process and approved by the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change as a preferred alignment for the Hurontario Main LRT project, including north of Steeles Avenue to the Brampton GO Station. Therefore, be resolved that the Council requests Metrolinx establish a local storefront project office on the HMLRT route in downtown Brampton to provide outreach, open, accessible access of support to and communication with local businesses and residents in advance and during the construction phases. Therefore, be it further resolved that Council requests that Metrolinx establish the main HMLRT project management office be located in downtown Brampton. Therefore, be it further resolved that the City of Brampton work with Metrolinx to develop a mitigation strategy that ensures construction is planned and coordinated in such a way to allow continued access to the businesses along the HMLRT route during the construction period. Therefore, be resolved that the City of Brampton requests Metrolinx to continue to investigate off-wire light rail vehicle technology to further minimize the visual impact on the historic landscape of downtown Brampton. Therefore, be it resolved that Council requests that Metrolinx advance the necessary funding contribution for the downtown mobility hub study. Therefore, be it resolved that Council reaffirms a request to ensure all Brampton GO stations offer 2-way all-day GO service. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council requests Metrolinx to expedite the Queen Street High Order Transit project in the next wave of transit infrastructure investments. Therefore, be further resolved, the City of Brampton staff be directed to report back to Council on the terms of reference and associated budget to undertake a higher order transit master plan from the Ontario corridor north of the downtown GO station to the city's northern boundary. Therefore, be resolved, the City of Brampton staff be directed to explore federal funding opportunities to support Brampton's transit initiatives. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Clerk be directed to forward a copy of this Council resolution to all Brampton MPs and MPPs, the Federal Minister of Infrastructure, the Federal Minister of Transportation, the Ontario Minister of Finance, and the Ontario Ministry of Transportation, to the City of Mississauga Region Appeal Metrolinx 47ETR for information.
Councillor Sprovieri.
Am I on? Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I make my comments, I'd like to get a question from staff. One of the delegations talked about the change of lanes from the center to the outsides, and so the trains have to go to the outside and cars have to go on the inside, and there's this crisscross activity that will be happening somewhere south of the was it Gage Park or south of around Steeles. Where is this happening? This interaction or exchange of lanes?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the stretch that you're talking about, where the LRT comes north through Main Street South, approaches Wellington, and then at Wellington it actually makes that change from the center running to the curb lanes. So by using the signals at Wellington, it'll actually allow the LRT to get a jump on the traffic, get to the outside lanes, and then the cars will be allowed to proceed afterward.
Oh, so there'll be signals that will stop the car traffic and allow the train to cross, and then they do their movement?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct.
And same as both ways?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct. Yep.
And how's that, does it depend on how long the train is and how many cars there are on the road, how it will operate smoothly?
A lot of those, through you, Madam Mayor, a lot of those details are still to be worked out, but generally what will happen is, just to clarify, the signal itself will actually allow enough time for the vehicle to actually pass through it. When it passes north from the center lanes to the outside, it's going from a shared lane to a dedicated lane. So it's not like there's any cars in that lane. So there's an allowance for time enough to actually pass through into that lane.
Through the chair, is this done anywhere else? This crisscross, is it common?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's actually being done in the south as well on this project, where it actually connects to in south of Mississauga.
I'm talking about whether there's anything in existence that whether Calgary or Vancouver or wherever the LRTs are. Is that happening anywhere? Or is this a first?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just going to ask our consultant to answer that question for you.
Thank you, through the chair. There are a number of transit systems where it's quite common that we go from a center arrangement to a side running arrangement, and it's typical in those sort of situations that we use traffic signals to make that safe transition.
So it's done where there's both cars, buses, and LRTs all trying to coexist together?
Yes, there are many examples.
And cyclists also?
In this example, we haven't got cyclists in this part of the corridor, so we're talking about road traffic and LRT traffic.
And where is it happening? Can you give us some examples where this is happening?
Many examples in Europe, in the UK, in places like Dublin and Nottingham.
Okay. Yeah. All right. The other question I had through staff, it is my understanding that, that's fine, thank you very much for that. It's my understanding that the transit terminal, as it stands today, is overburdened, overcrowded, and actually staff was looking for some properties to expand the terminal because of the congestion that's it's experiencing. And if that is so, that there is already congestion and can barely handle the bus traffic there now. If we bring this LRT to this location, obviously, do you expect more buses to feed into this terminal, or do you see less buses feeding into this terminal to feed the LRT?
Through Madam Mayor, the buses that service the Huron-Ontario corridor now, or the LRT, would be utilized on other corridors. So those buses currently stop on street. They don't go into the terminal. But at the same time, we are starting to undertake a mobility hub study, which will look at the downtown transit terminal.
So is there space to expand it if needed?
Not currently, no.
And so would we have to start expropriating some buildings in a neighborhood somewhere and start tearing them down to make room for the extra
Through the chair, I can't really answer that. The mobility hub study is going to look at that, so it's premature for me to kind of comment on that.
So how can we make a decision on this LRT, to bring this LRT in this location, if we don't have that answer today?
Through the chair, the LRT is planned to go north of the downtown terminal.
Right, I understand that, but
So
what I'm saying is that it's going to, the LRT coming there to feed it, it's going to bring more buses in this area to feed this LRT, because it's going to need we got to bring a lot of people to make it work, to make it viable, to make it pay for itself, I believe. You can't just run it half empty, because it's not cost efficient to do that.
Through the chair, I don't have enough information right now to answer that question. I can come back to you with some more information, but I'm not comfortable right now. I believe that, the future expansion will be looked at in the mobility hub study. Right now, we have our challenges. It's busy in the downtown terminal, but we still have some capacity on those routes going into the terminal.
Okay. The other question I have through the chair, Mayor, is as we know, the Queen Street corridor is really has a much higher priority for Brampton than the north-south route, and we're hoping, some of us are hoping that represent the east end of Brampton, that an LRT will someday come on Queen Street, mainly to connect people to this LRT here, and also to connect people to the Vaughan, new subway in Vaughan, 400 and Highway 7. So for the people who would come from the east to the downtown and head down to Mississauga, is there a plan of where this this connection can be made? Has that been looked at, where this connection between the two, the east-west, north-south LRT can be connected somewhere? So people could get off one and get on the other instead of having to walk a couple of blocks?
Through you, Madam Mayor, during the Huron-Ontario Main LRT project in this last phase that we just completed, the LRT for Huron-Ontario goes north underneath the CN Bridge and turns west into the GO station on the north side of the tracks. Right beside that, we've also looked at accommodating the Queen Street LRT right beside it. So both can be accommodated actually on that site.
And how would you get the Queen Street LRT there? How would you bring it in there?
So as part of the Queen Street Rapid Transit Master Plan that is now out, part of that work is actually going to look at the different alignments in terms of where could it actually go and select a preferred route. In part of my presentation, I showed a couple of potential alignments. So one of the options could be coming along Queen Street, westbound as you approach the CN tracks, and then paralleling the CN tracks right into the GO station, right beside the here Ontario Main LRT.
So that is a possibility of actually using the tracks as a...
It's not using the tracks, it's parallel beside.
Parallel,
Yes.
so is that something that would be allowed to happen? As we spoken to CN or whatever, would they be agreeable to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we've allowed actually for even a third rail for the GO CN line as well. And so outside of that corridor, there's actually still space available there to actually do that. So that actually wouldn't be in the CN right away.
So you're saying that through the chair that there's enough space there to accommodate Brampton's #1 need, and that's all-day GO. On that right away, there's enough space to accommodate that and plus the LRT?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, there is enough space to accommodate a third rail for all-day GO, the here Ontario Main LRT, as well as a Queen Street LRT in that location.
So, through the chair, for a number of years now, we've been lobbying the province to twin the tracks from Bramalea to the downtown in order to get to the 20 years? In order to get all-day GO. So I've been hearing that there's not enough space, that you would have to expropriate and knock down some houses and in order to have the space. Now you're telling me there is a space, but the province hasn't been listening to us to provide us this all-day GO?
Through you, Madam Mayor, what I'm talking about is the piece between Queen Street and the GO station, where you're referring to where there's a pinch point along the GO train tracks is actually further southeast of the GO station. Between the Brampton GO station and the Bramalea GO station, there's pinch points there, but not in this location right here.
So there's enough space further north to accommodate that.
There is north of Queen Street, yes.
So if we were to really push the idea of coming up the Etobicoke Creek as an alternative, even though it costs some more money, and we can get over the environmental constraints that basically engineering can build bridges over the ocean, the PEI to the mainland, on the Dominion Bridge, I think it's called. If they can achieve that, I'm sure they can achieve building through the valley there. So, these days engineers can do wonders. So that space could be used for connecting the GO, the existing GO station from up the valley there. So there's space there. There's space on that track right away.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think we're talking about two different parts because the piece to the north, well, there's space to the south going up the Etobicoke Creek Valley, as we've heard from TRCA. That's against it's within a regulatory floodplain. That's against the regulations, and so that's not allowed.
Well, that's what they say, but I sit on that. That's I've seen the board. That will be a decision of the board. So it's not the staff decision. The board could make that decision.
Can I ask that you just ask questions and not get into a debate, please?
Well,
it can be a long evening.
Madam Mayor, I have to correct that. Even though staff is saying it's like staff here telling us to accept this.
Councillor Sparvieri, it's been a very long evening. If you could just get to your statement or any questions, please.
So, Madam Mayor, I do have a couple of statements, and I want to start off just by I've been communicating with Mr. Tour Amarit. Hi, Amarit. Hi. I just want to say, Amarit, that I want to say that you mentioned I drive a Lincoln. Well, I worked for Ford for 36 years, and I think I deserve to drive a half-decent car.
So can I stop the dialogue,
There's
please? Just make a
seven
statement.
Fords in my
Go back and
household,
forth.
7. So I support our brothers from working in the auto industry, just to let you know.
Please, let's not have a debate back
my
and forth.
comments, Madam Mayor. Let me take a little sip. And here's how I operate. This is John. I don't back down. I fight for what I believe. I believe that Brampton is being shortchanged with this decision, this recommendation. I believe that this is a route that's been driven by Mississauga, and they basically were at the end of the line, and they're expecting us to accept the crumbs. And that's what they're expecting us to do. Well, I don't work that way. I fight for the city, I fight for the people, and I want to get the best deal possible. What is the best deal possible? First of all, is to achieve number 1, and number 2, and then number 3. And I believe that we can do that. We don't have to cave in to what the Mississauga people have designed for us. We can stand up to the and I was hoping that these residents today here would say, we're not prepared to take the third choice. We're here to fight for the number 1 and number 2 and find the best route for this, even if it costs more, to find a route that will satisfy everyone. It will satisfy the people on the LRT. It will satisfy the business people downtown that feel that they're being affected. And it will satisfy the young people who can't afford a car and need LRT transportation. We could achieve all of it. All we need to do is stick together, not be divided like we are here tonight, and tell the province, we're not going to accept second choice. We want to be treated fairly. We want to be treated just like Mississauga. Our population is almost as big as Mississauga's, so why are you giving us the short end of the stick? So I'm prepared to support Councillor Bowman's motion that says that we go up to Steeles Avenue, and then let's do our homework and see where we can go from there to do the right connection on Queen Street that will connect the east-west. Do a plan. We're going to come up north somewhere, whether it be Kennedy Road or McLaughlin or up the valley. Let's come to Queen Street. Let's find a place where the east-west LRT can someday connect, integrate, and really provide the proper service to our residents in Brampton. So that's what I'm going to support tonight. And if we can get this council to support it, to be unified, I think we can achieve it. There's money. The federal government has allocated money. We spoke to our MPs, the 3 of them, and they said, guys, all you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Toronto asked, and they got $2.6 billion from the federal government. And there's more money to be had. So, Madam Mayor, I'm going to go for the long shot. I'm going to go to what's best for Brampton, and I'm hoping that this council will stick with this, go for what's best for Brampton, bring all the various needs together, and be a unified city, residents, and council. To me, I think it's worth the fight. I think it's worth the effort. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try not to rile up the crowd. But I do have to, I had an argument with Todd Lett from the Board of Trade yesterday, and at the end of the day, we shook hands and said, we'll talk further. And we were very passionate about that, and it goes to show that this is a real passionate thing. And I agree with what Councillor Bowman said. This issue divided this council and divided this city. And no matter what people say in the audience, we have the emails and the calls and the proof that I say it's right down the middle, right down the middle. Whether some people here agree with that, that's just reality. But I do, and I took some advice that Todd gave me yesterday, and I wasn't going to go backwards. As he said to me, you'll remember, Todd, don't go back, go forward. But I have to go back now because of some of the comments that were made tonight about us. And, somebody said, and I made some notes, I was going to go through a whole bunch of stuff here, but because of the time, I'm not going to. Somebody said, where were you the last 5 years? Well, let's step back a bit here, and let's talk about where Brampton Council was on this. Longer than 5 years ago. Long before that. In fact, before Metrolinx was even in the picture, we started Zoom. I was the chair of planning when we started Zoom. Chris will remember. we started that rapid transit system longer before Metrolinx had even come along with an LRT to throw at us. We had priorities. We set out a plan. We had LRT on Queen Street. We had rapid transit on Main, not LRT, rapid transit on Main. That's where we were going. That's what we were asking for. All day go, number one priority, as Council Provieri said. All day go, two-way go, that was our number one priority. Don't ever tell me we didn't send that to the province. We sent that many a times. It was addressed, it was there. Metrolinx should know about it, the province certainly know. That's what our priorities were. We've been working on it. We come along, we've done our plans. Our original plan, like I said, was that it's changed. Kevin Montgomery related to that original plan, what we do. You know, my problem with all this is that we were quite consistent all along the way at what Brampton Council wanted. I'm not sure our staff were, but we were. Our message was point blank what we wanted. And on September of last year, at a 10-1 vote, we took that alignment off. I went back through the record with the clerk, not this clerk, Peter Fay, and looked at what we said and what transpired and what motion was. And that last council, and we abide by that last council until tonight. We have to abide by that, and staff have to abide by that until tonight. That last council took that route right off, gone. Now come back and tell us what the other routes are. What can we look at? What's the impacts? We got no impacts. Where's the economic impact from our economic development on what it would mean if we were at the hospital? To our brothers and sisters there, I spent 15 years in the union. I think that the impacts will be greater there in jobs. A lot greater, as Councillor Bowman had said. Probably 10 times greater. And I think, as Councillor Bowman said, if we had brought tonight a route that showed that, getting to that hospital, and we can argue with TRCA whether it's up the creek or going around or whatever. I mean, TRCA said we couldn't do the downtown stuff too. We got by that. That would create more economic spin-off for this city than anything else. Our Queen Street corridor is the livelihood of this city at build-out. And I'm going to go back a little bit again. When I asked a few years ago to our Commissioner of Public Works, when we first started talking about the hospital, again, before Metrolinx came along, I said to the Commissioner of Public Works, in a public forum with all council members there, I said, is our downtown hub big enough for build-out? His answer was, not even close. So I said, what are we doing about that? Why aren't we working with the hospital people that are doing it, that are starting, well, I wasn't in a hospital at the time, but starting that site and working on a hub there? And his answer was, we're not even looking at it. And I'll be honest with you, the council didn't support it. A few of us did, but didn't support us. So now we're thinking back, and I asked the question of staff a couple weeks ago. What are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to look at it. I'm supposed to make a decision about that by looking at it, by believing that we're going to look at it? Until tonight, we didn't even know what the costs were of the extra, the soft costs. We asked what the soft costs. Why is it that this council had to create controversy to get staff to tell us what the soft costs were when they wanted us to make a decision on it without those costs? It's ridiculous in my mind that we're asked as politicians to make decisions without all the information in front of us. And I still don't believe tonight that we have all the information in front of us. I don't want to get too excited here, but it's hard not to. I am getting sick and tired of having to argue with the province of Ontario, all the governments. I'm not trashing the Liberals. We've been through it with the NDP, the Conservatives, and now the Liberals. Well, we have been talking, Councillor Provieri, I've been on council 24 years. We've been talking about it, and you were talking about it before that, so it's probably more like 30 years that we've been asking for all-day go. Brampton Council has been consistent. The residents have all been consistent. That's what you want. All-day go. Yet all those governments have not listened to us. I had a meeting with the head of GO years ago. I know our staff have sent messages. I know our mayor sent messages saying, number one priority for Brampton is all-day go. And yet we're not even talking about our number two priority. To me, that's it. Where are our MPPs? Are they here tonight? There's $1.6 billion on the table. Where are they? Come on. People are saying that we're going to turn down 1.6. No, if this is turned down, you can use the threat Metrolinx are throwing out there, or our staff are throwing out there, you might lose 400 million. I don't think so. As Councillor Provieri said, I don't think so. They need Brampton. And it's about time we stepped up, as not only as council, but as a community, and fought for what we need. We need a fixed 410. We need a hospital. We shouldn't be talking about a second healthcare center. We should be talking about our third hospital right now. And we're getting that's going to be nice. I'll admit, it's going to be nice healthcare. Mississauga's got 3 hospitals. I said to a couple of councillors the other day, and Hazel McCallion told me herself when they started Metrolinx, how did you get what you wanted? Hazel said, we told them. We're not listening to what they say. We told them what we want. They changed the route. She said originally it was going right down the lake. We said, no way you're going. I asked the councillor the other day from Mississauga, how'd you get it around the route, the square one? We told them. The first maps that we saw, and I don't know if you guys were there, that wasn't even there. Yet it says here in the report it was. I guarantee you it wasn't in the first ones I saw. And then all of a sudden it's there. I talked to Councilman the other day. He said, well, no, you're right. It wasn't there, Councillor Gibson. We asked for it. So we got a budget of $1.6 billion that Mississauga got their way on, and Brampton never got a chance to say what we want. That's the way I look at it. And you can criticize me and say that I'm throwing things out. But what's that? Did somebody say my 5 minutes are up? I didn't only get 5 minutes. I look at, and this report here, here's an example of what we have to deal with sometimes here. We have a staff response from Metrolinx that indicates that they were responsible for operating and maintaining the Ontario main LRT, which will likely be undertaken by the third-party consortium inside. So, staff are saying they're going to be responsible for it. Back here, when there's questions and answers to Metrolinx, back there it says, the Premier and the Government of Ontario will commit to the capital cost of construction of the Huron-Ontario main LRT, Metrolinx, and the City of Brampton and Mississauga will enter into discussions regarding an approach to managing operating and maintenance cost associated with the city. That's saying we're paying for it. The other one said they're paying for it. I don't know what the truth is. Am I supposed to make a decision on $400 million to Brampton? Sorry, that's not going to happen. And I like what Councillor Bowman, I'm going to support what Councillor Bowman put forward because that's the prudent thing to do. This is not a gift horse. To me, this is a Trojan horse.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I know it's late, but I need to get my comments out there. I want to thank everyone for coming here today and thank those who have watched at home, contacted their councillors and shared their views in what is one of the most important decisions we've made this far in our city's history, as indicated by the dozens of delegates here tonight. Why is this so important? Why have we taken such interest in this matter? Because it's our very future that's at play here. The direction of our city and the route we choose to forge our identity is being voted by council tonight. Our city has grown exponentially in the past 15 years, and we've become the 9th largest city in Canada. We'll be pushing 1 million people in a few short years. Yet with all the growth and vitality that the rest of the city has shown, our downtown has remained virtually unchanged. Why? It appears that in this debate, we've been forced to choose between young and old, between new Brampton and old Brampton, between heritage and progress. And let me remind those people that are dividing us and pitting us against one another for personal political gain that we're one city and we're one people. In Brampton, we don't judge. It doesn't matter who you are. We welcome everybody because that's what Brampton and Bramptonians are about. If there's any type of barrier, it's the geographic barrier between the downtown and the quote-unquote suburbs. Ask around in those suburbs if many residents have been to our downtown or been to City Hall even, and the answer is no. Ask anyone in downtown if they've been to the restaurants maybe near Ray Lawson or Boulevard, and the answer is no. But the LRT is that bridge. Why? Because the numbers don't lie. 35 million people, that's how many riders will be eventually using it. 27 riders per hour, zero emissions, $1.6 billion. The project is fully funded. I believe the LRT will invigorate our city, bring new life to it. We must bring people here, and we've heard it before. If you build it, they'll come. New businesses will come. Opportunity will come. Shoppers will come. A university can potentially come, and along with the ability for an LRT to transport 10,000 students a day in and out of Brampton. You see, this is not a one-stop fix to our city's transit problems, or our region's transit problems for that matter. The Huron-Ontario Main LRT is just the first step in what's being coined the next wave of Metrolinx's master plan. For example, we already have the study for the east-west Queen Rapid Transit route ongoing. And the next steps in the plan include the mobility hub and the all-day two-way go. However, these are all dependent on the ridership that the HM LRT brings into our downtown, which means if there's no HM LRT, the chances for a Queen East-West LRT and mobility hub are tremendously reduced, while the all-day two-way go will be vastly delayed, which makes the implementation of this project that much more important. So that being said, like any debate, we must always respect and consider the opinions of those who disagree with us, because just like us, they also want what's best for the city. So what are their concerns? Do we reside within a floodplain? Yes, we do, but it doesn't seize development. Are our streets too narrow? No more narrower than any other urban street. Will business be hurt? In the short term, yes, but we must suffer some type of adjustment. But ask the numerous businesses that are already struggling, it's a risk they're willing to take. We have some beautiful historic homes here, 150 years old with great history. What about their value? Well, so does Rome, so does Bern, Paris, France, all have thousands of years of heritage, but they all have an LRT. And like any great city, heritage and progress must work together. I believe the LRT will make our lives better. It will invigorate our downtown and move it into the 21st century. In closing, 5 years of traffic, environmental, geographical studies, among many others, have been done by Metrolinx in conjunction with the city. Countless debates, countless hours of back and forth later, we are now finally at the point of making a decision that will propel Brampton into the future. And I urge my fellow councillors, let's not make the same failed decisions as the past council made with missed opportunity after missed opportunity. We were elected to bring change to Brampton and to be the voice of reason and civility. Let's not be on the wrong side of history yet again. Vote for progress. Vote for our future. Vote yes for the Huron-Ontario Main LRT plan through downtown. Thanks a lot.
Councillor Miles.
Oh, I jumped up ahead. Okay. Thank you very much. I just would like to start off, if I could, with a couple of questions first. First to our staff, when did Brampton Council actually decide that they wanted to have a rapid transit system on Highway 10? Was it in our transit master plan?
Through the chair, the first TTMP, or the Transportation Transit Master Plan, in 2000, was approved by Council in 2004, identified Huron-Ontario Main as a potential rapid transit corridor.
So this isn't, so 2004, Brampton Council actually passed in their master plan that we would like to see light rail transit on our Queen Main corridor. So this wasn't something that Mississauga was dictating to us. This was something that we felt would be good.
Through the mayor, just to clarify, it identified as a corridor for rapid transit. So that, as that triangle that I had in my presentation showed, as the corridor intensified and the ridership grew, we would determine that technology.
So then when we implemented the Zoom system, did we contemplate moving forward with a rapid transit or a light rail transit system at that point?
Through the chair, through the Zoom project, we contemplated that there could be a future rapid transit technology on all of the Zoom corridors. A lot of the funding was for buses, which could be reallocated either to a BRT system in dedicated lanes or to other corridors if LRT was introduced. All the stations were designed so that they could be moved if needed be, whether that was to the middle of the street or to another location.
So at the end of the day, who made these decisions? Council?
Yes.
Council. So our council made the decision that we would be looking at moving towards a light rail or a rapid transit system on Highway 10 corridor. So that wasn't Mississauga's decision, that was our own decision, and it's... Well, I would like, Madam Mayor, through you, to ask the head of Metrolinx to please come to the podium if I could ask him a question. I'm sorry, could you please tell me your name again?
Sure. Bruce McQuaig, good evening.
Bruce McQuaid?
McQuaig, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McQuaid. So, Metrolinx has been looking at developing a regional transportation network around the GTA for quite some time, correct?
That is correct. In 2009, the big move, the Regional Transportation Plan, was adopted, and that was the result of a number of years of input and consultation with municipalities and the public.
So when you decided that you were going to do a rapid transit system from Mississauga through Brampton and right to the Brampton border, was that dictated by the city of Mississauga, or was that part of an overall big regional transportation plan?
It was part of the overall regional transportation plan. We're looking at developing a network of regional rapid transit and having a spine in Peel region connecting from the GO station in Port Credit up to the Brampton GO station and potentially beyond was identified at that time as a critical part of the regional network.
Okay, so in fact, when you in concert with the province decided to make the announcement that you would fund the $1.6 billion, was it in fact to connect one GO train station to another GO train station, the fact that more of the route was going to end up in Mississauga than Brampton? I guess what I'm trying to point out that this isn't really about Mississauga's getting more and we're getting our leftovers. It was part of a regional transportation plan that was in fact going to connect one GO train station to another GO train station. Is that correct?
That is correct. And through the mayor, in fact, we really don't look at municipal boundaries when we're developing the regional transportation system. We are looking at people's origins and destinations, where the population is living, where the employment is, where the universities and schools and so on and so forth. And we're trying to find the best path for an overall regional system.
So why, in fact, was the Hurontario system moved forward before the Queen Street system?
When we were developing the regional transportation plan, it in fact includes the Hurontario main LRT. It includes GO two-way all-day service. It includes rapid transit on Queen Street. All those are elements of our plan going forward. The work on Hurontario main LRT had advanced ahead of some of those other projects. And when we were looking at the ridership and the performance of the system, it actually performed very, very well. So it came up as from an evidence-based perspective as a very good performer from a regional perspective.
So top priority because of the amount of riders. Brampton believes that I believe, but I think a lot of us on council believe that in order for the LRT to be really effective, that it should be taking the commuter population from north of our city on an LRT system right through down to Mississauga and connecting with the rest of the GTA. And it is noted in the motion that's coming before us. But I guess what I would like to hear from you as you're developing this network, when would you see the continuation of the Hurontario LRT to the Brampton border or to some type of mobility hub? I know Caledon has already planned in their Mayfield West expansion area a transportation hub that would feed into an LRT system going down the corridor. So when would you see that kind of the extension being able to occur? If in fact, and I'm going to maybe put some words in your mouth, if in fact we did move ahead with the LRT, the Hurontario LRT to the GO train station, would it be something that the City of Brampton should be immediately starting work with the province of Ontario and doing the environmental assessments, and so that in fact as the work in the beginning of the phase begins, that perhaps we could see you funding the system to the Brampton border? Because really, if you're talking about moving people and getting traffic off the roads, we want that system to not end at the GO train station, but in fact to carry the commuters either to a GO train system that's going to have two-way GO, or down to the Mississauga border to facilitate people who are working and going to employment in those areas, and back, of course.
Through the Mayor, the current priorities that Metrolinx had identified for Peel Region and Brampton and Mississauga included GO two-way all-day service, the Hurontario Main LRT to the Brampton GO station, and Queen Street Rapid Transit. We had identified going north as a longer-term initiative. We are going through the process right now of updating the regional transportation plan, and clearly I understand that one of the motions that is going to be considered tonight is to request that we accelerate the work on going north, and I think that's something that we would do in the context of the regional transportation plan, working with the City of Brampton.
Okay, so really what we're looking at is we're looking at a piece of the whole, the beginning of the regional plan as it connects the City of Brampton to the GTA, would see the Hurontario corridor connecting us down to not just Mississauga, but to Mississauga and parts of Toronto, Oakville, and what have you, from the north to the south, and then the Queen Street corridor would actually connect us to the borders on the directions on the far north end of the city as well. That's the big picture. I noted that Metrolinx actually have that on their website as one of the leading priorities. So this isn't just something that we're talking about, it's actually part of the regional plan. Can you give us any idea as to time frames where we could be seeing, even like would we be starting the environmental assessments on the Queen Street corridor in the near future?
Through the Mayor, again, one of the motions that's on the table is to accelerate work on the Queen Street Rapid Transit Corridor. And again, I think in the context, since it was one of our priorities as well, that we would be bringing that forward as part of our work over the coming 18 months with the city.
Okay, thank you. I really do appreciate that information.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I know there are other speakers. I had some questions. I do have some comments, but I can wait until other questions are answered.
I'd rather everybody just spoke once, actually, and we got to the vote, to be honest.
Seeing it so early?
Well, it's 1:45. It's Thursday.
Okay.
So if you could just wrap up your comments, we can get to the vote.
Okay, so I guess if I could, through the mayor, to my colleagues and also to the members of the public, I was really astounded at the breadth of knowledge that people actually had in regards to the LRT, and I think many of you that came before us and spoke have done your homework and probably have more knowledge than some of the members of council or many of the members of council.
Please, order.
Well, yeah, maybe me. In fact, some of them did know information that I wasn't aware of. So I was impressed, and I thank you for that. And I also respect the fact that so many people have come out to say that they are interested in seeing Brampton become the kind of city that we all want it to be. I had reserved judgment on where I was going to stand on this until I actually heard from the public. And I think the public's opinion was very loud and clear this evening. And it wasn't just a matter of saying, we support LRT because it's going to be good for our city. It was well thought out arguments about what the LRT can do for our community. One point, I can't ever remember the province of Ontario coming to us as a municipality with a gift of a public transit system at $1.6 billion, ever. I've been on council for 27 years, ever. And for this council to be contemplating saying no is, it really is astounding, because regardless of the diverse opinion around the room, people have said quite clearly, everyone, that we need LRT in the city of Brampton. We need it. So that isn't the issue for debate, but the issue for debate is the route. But it would seem to me, common sense would say to most of us that an LRT system, which is supposed to move people quickly, goes in a straight line, right? It doesn't divert and go. Otherwise, you're not saving any time. So north-south straight, east-west straight, and then if we have to look at connecting traffic, then we do that in another form, not in an LRT. So I guess an LRT system that's going to go all over the place. I would love to have seen it go up the Etobicoke Creek. I had thought at the time we had the discussion, wow, that would be really neat, it would be less disruptive, et cetera, et cetera. But quite frankly, at a cost of $300 to $400 million, where are we supposed to get that? No, Metrolinx is supposed to give us another $400 million when they believe that the most impact, I'm not going to debate with you this way, Councillor Gibson, sorry. So at the end of the day, I think that Brampton has been given an opportunity for it to connect to the GTA through a rapid transit system that has been well thought out. It's been contemplated by the municipality for 11 years or more. This isn't new. This isn't leftovers. This makes sense, connecting from one GO train station to another GO train station, and an east-west route that's going to connect us to the whole of the GTA. I just sincerely hope that my colleagues will support this motion this evening, because this really is, as people have said, this is about the future of our community. One young man said tonight, don't embarrass me any further by turning this down. And you know what? We live in a really amazing city. We have fantastic people, we have fantastic infrastructure. There is no reason for us to have the kind of reputation that we have. But if we make decisions like, if we make a decision to turn this down, then I don't know when this municipality will ever recover.
So my next speaker is Councillor Bowman, but Councillor Moore hasn't spoken. Do you mind if I go to somebody who hasn't spoken?
Absolutely.
Councillor Moore.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to echo my colleagues' comments around community engagement. Even though we're here at a late hour, this is the kind of community engagement that we've been missing for a long time in this city. I'm kind of reminded about a controversial debate about a southwest quadrant, and some of us were sounding alarm bells. So to the young man, that handsome young guy that got his beard trimmed, well, you told us you did. Where were you? I was sitting here saying, where were you? Because we needed the community to engage back then when we were sounding alarm bells. And, of course, we know where that got us. So community engagement at any level is a good thing. And thank you for joining us here this evening at this late hour. The truth is we have more in common than we have in differences. We all want what's best for Brampton. We see a different road, no pun intended, traveled to get there. I think Councillor Sprovieri has probably captured it best. There are those who are prepared to accept what has been put on the table for us, and there are those of us who believe that we are deserving of better. And I'm one of those ones who believes that we are deserving of better. I want to talk a little bit, the notes I've made tonight are more in response to some of the comments made here this evening. Again, where were you for the past 5 years? I will tell you that every single motion put forward by this council dating back to 2009 and 2010 said that the alignment had to come back to this council and that there were serious concerns about a surface alignment in the downtown. So the motion that was passed last September was a last-ditch effort to get staff's attention that we don't want the surface alignment in the downtown. And I think a business person came forward earlier this evening and said, it's just not okay when staff, particularly in a municipal environment like this, don't take the direction of the elected councillors sitting around the table. That might be okay with some of you. It's not okay with me. So I think that, just to put into context what this council's position has been for the past 5 years, I want to talk a little bit about the presentation from Heather McDonald, where she talks about the projected population numbers, residential and employment for the downtown. And it ties very much into Carolyn Woodland's presentation. There's a special policy area covering the downtown that says within the floodplain zone of downtown, there will be 1,100 new residential units and 174,000 square meters of non-residential floor space. I don't know what that translates into in terms of jobs, but it seems to me that the projections to 2031 in the presentations are a little over aggressive in terms of what can actually be achieved by that time frame. I think just by comparison, the southwest quadrant is 126,000 square feet. Don't know what that translates into meters. Somebody here is, I'm sure, capable of doing that. But there are some serious restrictions in terms of what can reasonably be achieved in the downtown given the current environment that we are working in. Nobody on this council has ever said no to LRT. Nobody. So these folks out there who are perpetuating that it's pro-LRT and anti-LRT, absolutely just a misrepresentation of what this council wants to achieve. The lady in the blue, was your name Karen? Karen. You know, when you made your delegation here this evening, and you talked about expanding the downtown, we have a T in the downtown. It's flanked by residential, a block in every single direction. We're not like some of those other cities where we can afford to put an LRT and have that short-term pain and do what we need to do because we have other retail streets in the downtown. That is not the case for us. And what we've talked about a lot over the years of my time on council and others a lot longer than that is how do we stretch the downtown? That's why we talk about the Peel Memorial Hospital site being in our downtown. We have to expand the conversation about what does downtown Brampton mean and what does a service in the downtown, providing a service for the downtown doesn't have to be located at the four corners of the GO train. That the other fellow that said, I don't know who it was, your downtown's going to become just one great big transit hub. Absolutely. When you start talking about the trains on Queen Street and they're crossing at, we're just going to be Union Station, downtown Brampton. I think we need to give some really serious thought to that. Two-way, all-way GO has always been our priority. And it's interesting, I dug out a report that I had at home, 1991. In 1991, the city of Brampton did a review on the Brampton Central Commercial Corridor and the downtown, and they talked about wanting more GO train service for the downtown in this report, 25 years ago, 24 years ago, and we still don't have it. So those folks who think that, well, you know, just let them, you know, plow through our downtown, put in the surface alignment, because you know what? Queen Street's coming. Seriously? We've been waiting 24 years for two-way all-day GO. And you're going to put faith in a provincial government that, well, sometime next year they'll make an announcement and put the shovel in the ground for Queen Street? 35 million customers. Wow, that's a lot of customers that are going to come into the downtown of our city. That's what the report says, 35 million. Think about this. Where is the... There's not that many people living in the GTA, is there? 35 million? That's trips. But every single statistic in the Steer-Davies report, and nobody wants to get that out and look at it, but let's separate out the numbers. Don't be blown away by the big numbers of 35 million. That might be 35 million trips. Who knows? Who knows? Excuse me.
Sorry. Can we just get a little quiet, please? Thank you.
Separate out the Mississauga numbers from the Brampton numbers, and then you have some reality in terms of the amount of actual visitors and travelers to the downtown. This is a system that is designed to take people to Mississauga, and it's going to do that because Hurontario, south of the 407, is the economic corridor for Mississauga. They're going to get jobs, they're going to get office buildings, they're going to get multi-residential, they're going to get retail. They are going to get intensification south of the 407. That is their economic corridor and good for them. It's unfortunate that our economic corridor runs east and west. Because north of the 407, and I asked the question a couple weeks ago, there's no answers in here, where's the land capture value assessment that has been done for the corridor north of the 407? There is some limited capacity for growth, economic growth up to Steeles Avenue. There is even less between there and Nanwood. It's all valley land. It is all governed by special policy areas. It is not going to generate jobs, assessment, or investment for the city of Brampton to contribute to our financial health in perpetuity. Now let's go over the bridge into the downtown. We can have this conversation, but the truth is we were not at the table to look at the other alignments. Even in Toronto, for the Gardiner Expressway, there were some fully costed out alternatives that they debated for a couple of days. This council, or the previous council, with all of its faults, never had the opportunity to take a look at the reports that everybody's looking at today. By the way, were put on the website, I think sometime, we didn't get to see them here at this council. We never debated them. So Metrolinx proceeded without a council-endorsed, a council-supported alignment. We haven't done our homework. We haven't done our homework on behalf of the citizens of the city of Brampton. And that's why I'm going to support Councillor Bowman and Councillor Willens. There's a couple of other comments I want to make. We haven't talked about it, and I'm really shocked that it didn't come up this evening. As you reduce the capacity for cars on Main Street, if you live on Mill, if you live on Elizabeth, if you live on Elliott, all of those streets are going to be the choice of for a lot of motorists on those streets. And you can say, well, you're going to, as Susan Crawford said to some of us on council, suck it up. Oh, they can just suck it up, and when all that traffic is going up and down their streets. That's not why they chose to live in downtown Brampton. Let me just see. I guess the last point I want to make is this. The whole use it or lose it. I had a conversation, meeting with Todd Letts from the Board of Trade, and I said, I think the business community caught on a long time ago that the use it or lose it mentality for budgets wasn't really effective, that at the end of the budget year, employees would go out and blow their budget on things that they didn't need so that their budget didn't get cut for the next year. Realistically, think about this. Use it or lose it. Brampton, if they only take it to the border, we're going to take that money away and we're going to give it to another municipality. And everybody's shaking their heads. Yeah, oh yeah. That's the kind of fear-mongering that's been going on for the past few weeks since this report came out. And I'm with Councillor Sprovier. You fight all the way. But just think about the reality of this. 2018 is a provincial government election. Provincial election. Do you want to be the provincial government, the provincial Liberals, that are coming to campaign in Brampton, knowing that they clawed back money from this community? Don't you think the Tories and the NDP will just jump all over that? Oh, it's going to be my election. Yes, you're absolutely right. And you know what? I've got a long and proud history of fighting for the taxpayers and fighting for the downtown. So don't sit up there like, yeah. Right on, sister. Actually, I got a few Fords in my family, too. My father retired from Ford's. I think he worked with John for a number of years. But
union members, too. Are you
union
Councillor
members?
Moore,
But, well, absolutely. I may go back on the board if, I think there's something else that needs to be said. But, the reality is that there are two perspectives on this, and one of them is going to prevail here this evening. And I hope it is the motion that Councillor Bowman has put forward. It's realistic. It's not asking for any more money from the provincial government, which, by the way, the other one does. There's 8 things on the shopping list. Well, if there's 8 things on the shopping list, I'd like to see them costed out, and I wonder what it adds up to. And would it cover the cost of the money go towards looking at an alignment that the rest of us can all live with? And let's just do some simple math. If Brampton got the same money per capita as the Mississauga community did, the amount of money that would have been spent on this project or bringing LRT to Brampton would have been $950 million, if just using a per capita basis. So we are worthy of the same consideration and the same investment from the provincial government. It's our money too. Thank you.
So I have 3 people on the board. 2 have already spoken. I'm going to go to the person who hasn't spoken yet, Councillor Palashi. Yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all the council members around the table for sticking this out. Thanks to staff for being here and looking so happy. Thanks to everybody for coming out today. I really appreciate it. I know you're sitting in the most uncomfortable seats in Brampton right now. Please be careful when you get up. When we're all said and done, you don't just want to jump up and pull something. Thanks for the people that I see here around this chambers many times during many council meetings, and thanks to the new people that are here as well. We have a budget coming up, and I hope to see you back during the course of that budget. I think that would make it exciting and engaging. I have a couple things to say. I'm going to start off by saying that the Minister of Transportation said recently is hopeful that this council will make an informed, evidence-based decision with respect to the LRT plan that's before us. He went on to say that with respect to Brampton's participation in the LRT, the province is a willing partner and wants to engage in the discussion to provide information and facts as best we can. He also said that Brampton is an important part of our region and our province, and he was right about that. The LRT decision is perhaps one of, if not the most challenging decisions that we'll have before us. We have simplified a very complex matter to a yes or no choice. We are asking, should the LRT run through the downtown or not? Candidly, this is not the question this council should be trying to answer. The number of delegations tonight set a new record for this city, a clear indication of how important this issue is to our residents. Presentation by staff on June 22nd, 2015 provided an update on the HM LRT project that clearly states Metrolinx needs to know the project scope of the work before the fall of 2015. For inclusion in the implementation phase, what is the alignment north of Steeles Avenue? Why are we rushing this decision tonight? The LRT discussion has divided our business community, it's divided our residents, and it's divided this council. We need to seek a solution that brings this council together, that reunites our business and our residents. We need a meaningful majority decision from this council on this matter. Council must work together to achieve our residents and our business vision for their city. In my opinion, we have not met as a group. We have not listened to one another's views to try as a team to find common ground that we can all support. This is not, as it has been portrayed, as a simple yes or no decision. As a community, we need to be connected to our neighbors in the broader GTHMA. So yes, we need LRT, but we need a made in Brampton solution. As far as the LRT's alignment goes, only this community can establish that, as Mississauga has established the alignment for their LRT in their community. We must take the time to hammer out an answer that a meaningful majority of this council can support, and we must develop a consensus position. We have heard the views of the community. It is our responsibility to listen and develop a Brampton-centric, made-in-Brampton solution. Madam Mayor, I ask that you support a deferral of this question for 6 weeks. With the assistance of a professional, unbiased facilitator, lead us through as many workshops as it takes to deliver a positive solution that is favorable for Brampton from an economically viable, future-focused perspective. We must find the position that this council can support in a meaningful majority, if not unanimously. Madam Mayor, should this deferral lose, I have done my homework. I have carefully considered both sides of the issue. After listening to the delegates, listening to my residents in wards 2 and 6, I am fully prepared to participate in the question that's before us tonight. But I implore you, members of council, be prepared that what you want may lose. I'm asking you to have an open mind, and let's work together as a team, as a unified council, and let's bring this city to where it can be. Thank you. Deferral's on the floor.
So the deferral supersedes all the other motions. Is there anybody who hasn't, or I guess anybody can speak to the deferral? I think it has to be dealt with immediately. Okay. Okay. All right. So you want to call the question? Are we ready to call the question? Yeah. Counselor? Counselor? We're about to call the question on the deferral.
I have a question.
There's a process question, Councillor Bowman.
Sorry, I just want to make sure, Councillor Palashi, what you're talking about is deferral so that we can all meet and come to a decision, not a deferral where we're sending it back to staff. Okay, so it's the council members that will be meeting on this for deferral. Okay.
Well, it will be a workshop, so there's certain rules around a workshop, but absolutely.
Okay. All questions answered? So a deferral, Mr. Clerk, do you want to call the question for us? Okay. So the question of deferral, or a request for deferral for 6 weeks has been placed on the table. All those in favor? Or do you have a seconder, sorry?
I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Spovieri will second. Okay, all right. Councillor Spovieri. All those in favor? That carries. So I believe we have one item of correspondence from Metrolinx, and I have a motion from Councillor Medeiros, seconded by, I can't read what the name is. That the correspondence from Bruce McQuaig and Metrolink Fortini be received. All those in favor of receiving the correspondence? All those opposed? That's carried. I have a motion from Councillor Miles and Councillor Fortini to receive the 48 items of correspondence listed on the agenda, plus the 41 items of correspondence received after the agenda was published, plus the items provided to us tonight during the meeting. All those in favor of receiving the correspondence? All those opposed? That's carried. This is the 15-minute public question period where we invite the members of the public to come forward to the podium and ask questions about any decision made by council at tonight's meeting. There's a 15-minute limit for questions. Anybody in the public want to ask a question about the decision made at tonight's meeting? If so, please come forward. State your name for the meeting record and your question succinctly related to tonight's special council meeting.
Hi, my name is Chris Drew. If someone could tell me, and maybe this is a question for Metrolinx, who actually owns the tracks between Bramalea and Georgetown? Is it Go Transit or is it someone else?
Mr. McQuaig, do you want to?
So who wants to answer that question? Bruce, who owns the tracks?
Through the mayor, the tracks through Bramalea to Georgetown are owned by CN.
Thank you.
Anybody else who wants to ask a question about tonight's decision? Okay, our next item of business is item H, the confirming bylaw. I have a motion by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Bowman, that the following bylaw before council at a special regular meeting of July 8th be given the required number of reading taken by the mayor and the city clerk and the corporate seal affixed thereto. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. Our last item of business is the adjournment. I have a motion by Councillor, I can't read this. Is it? Councillor Dillon and Councillor Gibson to adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you to the members of the public for your patience and your attendance this evening and your participation. I want to thank all my colleagues for their respectful consideration and decision on the matter. Council is next scheduled to meet on August 12th at 1 o'clock and September 16th at 1 p.m. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn? All those opposed, that motion is carried. This meeting is now adjourned. Please have a safe trip home.